The main character's name is Tian Chen. And when he goes out on the street, people make a fuss. We can assume he's some kind of star. But really, he's a freak. But it's not easy being so ugly. It's incredibly hard for him to get girls to like him. He's so disgusting that even God himself can't stand it. Before the guy could even do anything, he was hit by a truck. It's so scary that the driver suddenly flinched and this happened. The driver hit him due to the fact that bad introductions. But everything blames it on the appearance of the protagonist. The guy wondered if he could make a wish before he died. He would only want one thing in the next life. Namely, to get rid of that hideous face and experience what it's like to be a good-looking guy. And then he woke up. He wondered if he wasn't dead. It was hard to believe that he was actually awake. Tian Chen couldn't believe that he was beginning to imagine such a beautiful picture. He seems to have been noticed too. He's afraid he might scare them anyway. But these girls started coming up to him. The boy remarked that they were all such defenseless beauties. The girl who was holding his hand asked why her sister was so shy. They don't bite. The other girl, who was holding his chin, praised his graceful face and snow-white skin. This is the kind of situation that many men dream of. The girl asked if this little sister was okay and why she was bleeding. The boy wondered which sister she was talking about. It's good to have white skin and be beautiful. But he's wearing a woman's outfit. The sisters wanted to wash it themselves. Afterward, it turned out that it wasn't actually even a sissy. Originally, this topic my body was also owned by a man named Tian Chen. He was the son of a family of martial arts masters, but was banished. In order to humiliate him, his family even gave him women's clothes to emphasize his unworthiness. After wandering for a few days, he fainted on the road because of his weak body. Fortunately, a passing girl saved him and took him to a place called Miaozong. He was already tied up and explained that he really didn't know that it was forbidden for men to appear in this sect. Does this brat really think they're going to believe all this nonsense? He explained again to these ladies that it was really a misunderstanding. Besides, apparently they had taken the initiative to help him with his bath themselves. But they were interrupted by a message that the Lordess had arrived. She flew in on her sword. The girls bowed, greeting her. Guy figured that since she was a lord, she should be judicious. He also greeted the sister lord, but the girl replied that there was nothing to discuss, and he should have his head blown off his shoulders. The guy mentally begged to at least be listened to. This is truly his best rebirth ever. He no longer has a flag. Suddenly they heard voices saying that it was quite unexpected that someone was one step ahead. Other people also decided to join in the fun. He wondered if someone had come to save him. The girl turned around and asked who dared to invade the Miaozong sect. They were invaded by other men. They even unleashed the main character. The boy turned around and thanked his heroes. All 4 villains were there. Tian Chen also noticed that these guys didn't seem like good guys. Would he really be saved by being stripped? The first of the 4 villains declared to the witch that he would level the place. She will always remember the names of the 4 villains. The protagonist seems to have mixed up the scenario of his rebirth. The girl realized that this kid was with them. He started to explain that his sister had misunderstood him. It was all a misunderstanding. But this boy doesn't have to admit it. They came here to capture the witch alive. The girl screamed that they were shameless and wanted to attack them. She was already close, but suddenly the other sect girls fell down. She didn't understand what they had done. The second of the 4 miscreants reported that they just added something to their water. She also fell. The fourth of the 4 villains asked his brother what they should do with this boy. Once again, he's about to be killed. He's too weak now, so it's best to play it cool. His admiration for these villains is simply uncontrollable, like a spilling river. He wishes that these heroes would dignify the protagonist as their little brother. As ordered, the witch and her sisters were captured. He inquired as to what the older brothers were thinking of doing next. Well, there's no need to explain. Of course, all his thoughts were occupied about one thing. He stepped farther away and decided to go first. The man asked if he was still begging the witch to protect him. Tian Chen replied that little brother had just remembered an important thing about the welfare and prosperity of his elders. Although the older brothers are wise and skilled in martial arts, and the witch dares to be their enemy, the number of people decides everything. If they get stronger, they can put pressure on them. The best thing to do would be to start a villain sect and gather villains from all over the world. And also do the most evil things in the name of the villain sect. And soon their sect will be known throughout the world. She will be the chief overcomer of all the wicked. The source of evil that is honored throughout the world. At this point, it's important to pick the man in charge and then start looking for talent around the world. Just power can only belong to one. It's elementary, because of course the main thing is himself. But then my man noticed that these guys wanted to riot a little. As long as they fight quietly, he will waste no time and leave. The girl's hands were tied to the bed and there was a cloth in her mouth. She saw someone come in. It was the protagonist who told his sister Lord not to say anything because he was here to save her. The girl inquired earlier. She wanted to kill him, so why did he come to her rescue? He explained that it was all just a misunderstanding. Besides, Sister Lord is too kind for something like that. This is a sect full of girls, and she is the one in charge. Everyone knows what offenses are best to touch. It was immediately clear that those guys wouldn't survive, and who would even mess with them? They need to leave before those guys notice anything. She recognized that this was indeed a misunderstanding, and this guy was not their mate. He is the one who set it all up. The boy asked if Sister was laughing at him now. She, on the other hand, assumed that he had ordered the 4 men to secretly poison them, and then sneaked into the sect and pretended to be a prisoner. Then, he had signaled them to show themselves, and now he moved on to the final scene, which was called the rescue of the beautiful woman. This sister has an overly powerful brain, which makes one wonder how she could ever become the head of this sect. The guy even wanted to write a screenplay for her. There's nothing to say, so she'll kill him first. The 3rd and 4th villains returned, discussing the fact that they had been fooled. They could not believe that such a boy had done it, but they should stop arguing and kill this kid immediately. The girl wondered if he really wanted to save her. He swung his weapon to kill him, but there was smoke coming from somewhere, after which they disappeared. After being chased by 4 men for a while, Tian Chen and Yunling Chang were trapped in a stone room. The 4 villains were recovered by some kind of door. The man suggested leaving and not waiting for the witch's skills to fully recover. But suddenly the man remembered that he had bought that poison from the old man for a very high price. It's colorless and tasteless. Its faint odor is enough to drive a man mad. But if they don't want to come out, isn't that a disadvantage to the kid? First, it might force the 2 of them to come out. And second, the witch loves her body and won't allow anyone to defile it. If something really does happen between them, how could the witch let that happen? The guy began to notice that for some reason it was suddenly so hot. The girl also felt it. Tian Chen turned to her to discuss the situation. Yunling Chang can't stay here anymore. He grabbed her arm, after which the girl stumbled, but the guy skillfully caught her. Giving into the tension, they kissed. Suddenly, he heard someone's voice. The boy didn't understand who was speaking at all. He was answered that the lad should stop looking, for it was the deity speaking. This deity is called Shinjun. In his lifetime, he was one of the best in this continent. The deity told him to drop his blood on the mural to release the deity himself, but the protagonist only turned away. How dare that nasty boy ignore the deity when it hasn't finished its conversation yet? At first glance, this is just bragging. If this deity is so powerful, then how did he manage to get stuck in such a place? But at this point, there's no other option. He did what the deity asked. The mural began to glow. The girl suddenly collapsed. A white-haired man appeared behind him and explained that she was just temporarily unconscious. He also asked the little demon to lend his body to the deity. So this gang of villains finally saw someone start to come out. He thought he'd stretch his muscles and bones, but he didn't expect it to be so small. So he had absolutely no interest in it. Why don't they do it for him? They admitted that this kid is really funny. He's definitely 80% shocked and confused. The 3 of them attacked him. But there was a barrier around the protagonist, after which he stated that he was dead, so they wouldn't even be able to kill him. With his power, he destroyed their weapons. He flipped them off. No one understood what had happened that this kid had suddenly changed so much. They suggested to the first brother to fight this kid. He replied that there was no need to panic, and there was another way out. Their 36th strategy was the best strategy right now. The others shouted for their brother to wait for them as well. A sword he hasn't used in a long time has appeared in his hands. He doesn't even know if his skill is still intact. This unknown force bound them, causing them to fall. Suddenly, the kid started to fall. The girl caught him and asked him what had happened and where the 4 villains had gone. He didn't expect his sister to wake up so quickly. He only remembered that his sister had just told him that she was in charge of the cult, wanted to use his body to get rid of the villains. He doesn't remember what happened after that. She noticed that there was no trace of cultivation or spiritual energy on his body. Therefore, the girl didn't know if it was true that the ancestors had appeared. She asked when he was going to settle down. Yunling Chang recognized that this was indeed a misunderstanding after all. Let this guy didn't invade the X6, who this time he protected them. He imagined the fact that this girl has nothing to repay and can only offer her body. She hopes that he will agree and promise. Of course he promised it. There are as many pros as there are cons. Therefore, he can stay with the sect to help with chores. She shattered all his dreams, and the guy realized he didn't want to be a handyman. As it turned out, Everyone here was wives and concubines. So the guy didn't understand why he had to look like that. Clothes were thrown to him. The girl told him not to even think of idling, for he still had tons of things to do. The point is, all these sisters are good at martial arts, so with his weak body he can't resist them. Suddenly he heard a voice in his head, asking if he wanted to become stronger, and why not ask the deity for it. The guy, however, replied that he had called out to this crazy old man so many times and he didn't even answer, hiding from him. The deity had been sealed for a very long time, and to save the guy, he had to expend a lot of spiritual energy, so he needed to recover his strength. Tian Chen asked if it was a lie that the deity would help him become stronger. Of course, as long as this kid honors him as a teacher, then the deity will teach him. However, to his students, he is very demanding. Said deity was fine with the guy before, but now he feels like he's not a very reliable teacher. This stupid boy doesn't even know how many people are begging her for him to be their teacher, and now he's saying that this deity is unreliable. Xingjun slammed the guy's head on the floor and demanded that the bastard call him master. Before they start training, the man wanted to tell him about this world's cultivation system. In this world, spiritual energy is the foundation for cultivation. It is needed to perform any technique. The higher the level, the greater the store of spiritual energy, and the purer it is. In addition, according to the strength of spiritual energy, there are 8 stages: elevation, heavenly step, silver moon, earth gene, mysterious jade, yellow escape, rolling wind, and body hardening. With the exception of body hardening, each step is divided into 9 classes. To officially become a cultivator, one must first achieve body hardening. But he was kicked out of his family because the filthy blood couldn't even temper his own body. The teacher replied that this could not be true. When the majority took possession of his body last time, he checked everything thoroughly. In fact, he had no dirty blood, but the purest blood of the Millennium. If he wasn't mistaken, then someone had deliberately sealed Tian Chen's blood. The guy wondered if the original owner had offended someone without even knowing it. He would just have to follow all those directions and find everything he needed. In the meantime, his teacher will help him get a pill that clears his bone marrow to unlock his seal and restore his vitality. The Misty Sect, Mount Hao. Vedi's teacher had said that these herbs were very common, but in the end the boy didn't even see a hint of them. He heard some sound, but he was already being flown by a girl who had tripped. She fell on top of him. The girl immediately asked if he was okay. The guy replied that he was having a hard time. The master told him not to be foolish and to watch his step better. But they noticed the leopards approaching them. There was something wrong with them. They're marbled leopards, and they're quite peaceful. They rarely attack humans first. The boy asked his little sister what she had done with them. The boy asked his sister what she had done with them, but she replied that she had been collecting herbs nearby, and that they had attacked her. He seemed to realize what the herb was. A marbled leopard attacked a girl. The guy stood up for her, after which this leopard started licking his palms. Unexpectedly, this catnip really worked on the leopard. The girl gave thanks for her rescue. She had nothing to give in return, but she decided to give the herbs away. Compared to the tigresses in the cult, she was like a kitten. The boy dreamed of meeting her again. The master had swept up that all the herbs were needed here. Now only the lower order wood crystal remained. The guy asked why it was so problematic. I wish someone would just put the crystal at his door. He should stop daydreaming. Although it's a lower order crystal, it's not as easy to find as these herbs. Teacher already wanted to advise where to look for this crystal, but unexpectedly, a tree crystal was indeed brought to him. It turned out to be very easy to gather all the materials. It cost almost nothing. But suddenly a monkey stole that crystal right out of his hands. The guy chased that stupid monkey. Meanwhile, the girl was relaxing at a hot spring. The monkey ran right up to the building. The guy finally caught her. The monkey accidentally dropped the crystal from his paws. This crystal got into my clothes. He immediately reached into those clothes to retrieve his crystal. But suddenly Tian Chen felt a sharp chill run down his back. There was already an angry girl standing behind him. The guy asked if he said he followed the monkey. Would the girl believe him? In response to this, the girl asked what he himself thought. The protagonist started repeating again that it was all a misunderstanding. In his own thoughts, he cursed the author for hating him and making him suffer so much. Suddenly another girl burst in on them. It was the same girl he had helped the other day. She remarked that just now she had indeed seen a monkey run out of the room. The girl asked to think carefully first before doing anything. Yunling Chang wondered why on earth she was protecting this guy. The girl explained that when a threat arose over them while collecting medicinal herbs, he was willing to sacrifice himself for her. Therefore, she believes that he could not have done that. She didn't really care about the reason, but this guy better not do that again. Otherwise, his head would really fly off his shoulders. She cut off his hair, after which the girl left. As it turns out, this girl's name is Tian Mi. They met unexpectedly, so she decided to befriend him. Tian Chen also said hello and thanked her. She left in a hurry, but the girl also has something for the kid. It is surprising that this sect is limited by the barrier. Tian Mi opened the portal, whereupon she took the guy goat's arm and pulled him along. The girl explained that this was where she had once lived with her mother. Later, when she died, a great elder helped her to join the sect. Her mom told her that if her wish came true, she would get it. This pendant belongs to him now. The protagonist replied that he could not accept such an expensive gift, but he better take it or it will get angry. He thanked her for that. Since he'd grown up, this was the first girl who'd been nice to him. She waved her hand in front of his face and asked if he was okay. Tian Chen replied that everything was fine. He just got something in his eye. She replied that he could look around here and the girl would look for something else. A teacher appeared behind him and explained that this was the perfect opportunity for a guy to leave the Misty sect. Well, if he just walks away like that, that girl is sure to be pissed. Mentor wondered if he really liked the girl. Suddenly, they heard shouts of what he was doing. The man who held her by the hair had a second level. He had waited so long for this stupid girl. Tian Chen wanted to go to save her, but his mentor stopped him and explained that the man was of the second level. The protagonist doesn't stand a chance against him. Does he really want to die so easily? The kid suggested that the teacher take over his body just like before. But the mentor had already said that he had spent too much mental energy last time and hadn't fully recovered yet. He slammed his fist against the wall of not understanding what he needed to do, because he was so weak right now. If only he were stronger. Whereupon he noticed that the dodge in his hand began to glow. Mentor's savvy is the core of a wood crystal. Since she had gathered all the necessary materials, he could now begin cultivation. But the white-haired man replied that no. The key to cultivation is to temper the body. This process is extremely important and requires complete inner harmony. Without it, you can go crazy and turn into a monster. But the centurion wondered if his present condition was suitable for it. Does he really need to just stand there and watch a girl want to kill or do obscene things? Better to take advantage of the fact that they went unnoticed and quickly leave with the core. The boy asked how a teacher could say such a thing. Mentor's point is that this is just a woman he's known for one day, so why is he butting heads? With all the abilities and help of a teacher, he will become powerful in the future. She will be surrounded by crowds of women. The protagonist now can't believe that this is the kind of teacher he idolized. The guy admitted that it's hard to call him a good person too, but he draws conclusions for himself. The mentor's savvy picked the right person this time around. The protagonist turned around and asked if this was really a test. He is a great teacher. It would be a disgrace for him to raise a false disciple who is capable of betraying his ancestors. He should think again about the fact that hardening the body is a very risky process. The protagonist replied to her that he wished to begin. The teacher poured energy into him. The guy has to control his mind. All the negative energy is coming out of him now. But that seal still works. The mentor told Tian Chen to concentrate once more. The boy felt such a pain in his chest that he began to think there was something wrong with his heart. But his heart was indeed something of a fetter. Mentor was able to break those shackles. Golden lightning appeared in the sky. Also something that looks like a dragon's tail. The girl begged to be let go. The man replied that he didn't expect to see her today. His hand was grabbed by the main character, who was now on the first level, who told him to let it go. The man inquired if he was looking for death. He immediately attacked the protagonist. The guy flew back against a tree. It's too late to fall on your knees and beg him to be merciful. The protagonist only wiped away the blood and wondered if that was it. His body changed so suddenly that he even felt a little uncomfortable. Suddenly the kid disappeared that the attacker didn't even realize where he went, and the main character appeared behind him and started attacking. The man didn't understand how this was even possible. After all, his cultivation level was even lower. Tian Chen asked if they were going to continue. That man immediately ran away. The girl was still sitting up, shaking all over. The guy leaned over to her and held out his hand, asking if she was okay. She immediately went into his arms. Tian Chen was even embarrassed. There was a man walking by who noticed it all too, whereupon he fell. They carried the man into the cave and watched him. The protagonist guessed that this girl knew him. Could it be her boyfriend? Tian Mi replied that it was just one of her patients. One day she went shopping and saw a group of hooligans beating up a man. He wanted to save this man, but was captured by the same hooligans. Fortunately, the Lordess arrived in time and chased away all the villains. That man was dying, and she asked the Lordess to take him to the clan to heal him. But the Lordess refused. Afterwards, the girl secretly carried him, but her medical skills were not enough. In the end, he didn't get any better. That guy must have been the remaining bully. The girl asked me not to tell anyone about it. Her protagonist recognized her as being too sweet and innocent. Also, her kindness cannot be left unnoticed either. He stroked her head and explained that he wouldn't tell anyone about this. But suddenly they heard the voices of those who had finally found them. They obviously didn't expect the man to come back. He wants to see if they can escape this time. The girl pushed the guy away, talking about how she was the one he was looking for, so he needed to get out of here. But he won't leave her alone, so they will only leave together. The man began to get angry, for this couple was flirting as if they weren't even here. He ordered his men to finish them off. The man rushed in to kill them. The protagonist has successfully returned, but someone had already appeared behind him. This man was tying up the protagonist, yelling for him to try and escape. He was being held by 4 men. After all, the guy was already just wanted dead. Tian got on his defense and begged him to let him go. She would do anything. In the end, the main character was tied to a tree, and he was screaming for the girl not to leave with them. A mentor appears and explains to his student that these people are not just stronger than the protagonist. They're also working together, so there's only one way to win. The teacher imparted his knowledge to him. It's called instant defeat. It is a technique that combines form, spirit, and wind-like movement. It is one of the teacher's famous techniques, and now the protagonist will be able to use it as well. The man held the girl by the throat and gave her one last chance to answer where they were hiding everything. She replied that she really didn't know that. The man swung around, threatening to kill her if she continued to lie to him. But for some reason he couldn't move. The main character had a sword in his hands. With this sword, he immobilized all the bullies. And after that, the guy didn't fall on his own. Still, that move takes a lot of energy. Finally, he began to wake up, not realizing where he was. The girl was glad he was finally awake. The protagonist noticed the girl sitting on top of him. He immediately pulled back and asked what she was doing. Brother Chen risked his life to save her. In gratitude, there is only one thing she can do. She began to undress. His inner demon was asking for her to undress completely. But the guy even mentally smacked him upside the head. He stopped her. The girl asked with a slightly dazed face what had happened. The protagonist explained that she had gotten it all wrong. Tian Chen didn't save her for that. Tian asked. Turns out he doesn't hate her. He didn't even realize where she was getting these thoughts from and replied that, of course not. But still, she didn't understand why on earth he wouldn't want to. He called her a fool and explained that he wanted her decision to be considered. So he's willing to wait. She took his hand away and replied that she understood. So the girl complimented that she was the only one who wasn't going to wait. She flopped him on the bed. The guy didn't understand why she was suddenly so strong. It's a shame, because that's what she was originally going to do, pretending to be cute and stupid in front of him. The protagonist didn't understand what she was talking about at first. The girl bothered to explain that the fool had been duped. Those bandits tried to steal the treasure on her tip, but the girl took it herself. And the so-called patient is just garbage she used before the kid. She only had that patient until she found a replacement. Here all those happy memories with her flashed through the guy's mind. But now he realized it was all a lie. She explained that it was all about her finding a new toy for herself. But now she's looking at this guy and he's not too excited. She feels so bad for him. But of course, he didn't think of giving up so easily. But the girl was using some technique of her own that was clouding his mind. Sis promises to make him feel good. He should be grateful that he will feel the pleasure of paradise before he dies. He put his arm around her waist. But suddenly, Yunling Chang walked into them. The boy clung to her leg and thanked his sister for finally coming to save him. The Lord said to let her go. It is at this point that she feigns offense to be pitied. The girl explained that this guy tricked her out, drugged her with something, and forced her to go with him. The guy asked what the hell she was even talking about. That's exactly what she did to him, isn't it? She snatched the sword from the lordess and held it to her throat. Since she was no longer unclean, she would serve her lord after death, but she was prevented from doing so. She asked the lordess why on earth she had saved her. Why wasn't she just allowed to die? Yunling Chan explained that what happened was absolutely not her fault. She will get justice for her. This vixen was too good, and she even stupefied the mind of the lordess. Though it wasn't even much of a problem for her, she immediately turned to the main character and asked if he had anything to say. He started being led away by other women while the guy begged to be allowed to explain everything. He sat in the dungeon and pondered the fact that, alas, there was no stopping this witch. The mentor thought the protagonist noticed that every time the girl approached him, she exuded an evil spirit. The guy was stunned that the mentor knew all about him. He realized that there was something wrong with this girl. But unfortunately, the guy didn't even ask his teacher anything. The kid is sure the teacher's laughing at him right now. but he can't fall into the witch's clutches that easily, so he has to figure something out. The path of a cultivator is full of hardships worse than this. A mentor can't always be there for this kid. Needless to say, he kind of did a terrible thing, so the Lord must kill him. However, his sister only threw him in the dungeon for a while. Perhaps she sensed something wrong with the case. Tianmi came to him and asked brother Tian Chen how he was feeling. She came to take a look at this kid. This chick came just in time. If the protagonist had listened to her, he wouldn't be in such a dire state. But if he admits and corrects his mistake now, she might be able to get the protagonist out of here. The kid remarked that it was very nice of her, but he didn't need it. I guess he's lost his fear. He decided to tell her a secret for her. What the girl had just heard shocked her. So he really is the Lord's lover. The guy replied with a confident smile on his face that was exactly right. But the girl only laughed off that. Doesn't he know that more than anything else in the world, the Lord hates men? But there's always an exception. Doesn't she remember that time with the 4 bad guys? When the 4 villains invaded the Misty Sect, he and the Lordess were driven into a secret room. Then they drugged them with something, and they did indescribable things. He was prepared for the girl to finish him off after that. But to his surprise, it didn't happen. She said the guy could stay in the cult and help out around the house. By now, she should understand what this painting is all about. The invasion of the 4 villains actually happened. How the Lordess dealt with them remains a mystery. What slipped through her mind was the wonder if this was the truth. But if they really do have such a relationship, then why did the Lordess treat him so coldly? He reasoned that others should not know about their relationship. It's not something to be shown to others. As for what she said, during practice the Lordess would find out the truth one way or another. If that was all, he wished her a good day. Could it be that he and the Lordess are really lovers? However, out of old friendship, he decided to give her another chance. If that wench begs him, then so be it, he'll forgive her. She should have been the one to threaten this devil, but it went the other way around. The girl left immediately. The mentor asked his apprentice what he had in mind. The boy replied that if he understood everything correctly, the Lordess didn't even believe her. He thought it was the fox back again, but it was the Lord. The other girls were discussing something about Tianmi, but as soon as they saw her, they immediately stopped talking. She went to the Lord's chamber, but she was told that she was not seeing anyone today. But there's definitely someone inside. Everyone's gotten weird. It's just like that guy said. Suddenly, the protagonist covered her mouth and grabbed her wrist. She didn't expect that he had actually been released. He told her to follow him. The protagonist used the red stone. She marveled at the room the Lord had opened with the spirit stone in his hand. The girl wondered what the guy wanted. The protagonist opened the curtain. Behind her lay Yunling Chang. The guy touched her hands, explaining that they needed to save the Lordess sooner rather than later. She tugged his arms and asked what this guy had even done to her. The main character explained that he didn't do anything to her. It was just that the girl told him to practice and suddenly fainted. Tianmi felt that her pulse was practically non-existent. She immediately asked Tian Chen if he had told anyone else about it. The protagonist explained that he hadn't said anything to anyone. The girl must have more experience in such matters than the others. For some reason, she was starting to get the impression that the guy was telling her off. The girl also inquired as to why on earth she should save the Lordess. I mean, he has no idea what's really going on in that cult. Back then, Yunling Chang was only a disciple of the previous Lordess. Apart from the status of Lordess, there was another equally prestigious status, namely Elder. However, when a new ruler was chosen, the Elder suddenly disappeared. When the Elder returned, the new ruler was already ruling. They ended up feuding for years in secret from everyone. If this Lordess dies, the Elder will take advantage of that and become the new Lordess. The boy wondered what good it would do her. It hadn't even gotten to this fool that she was an Elder. What a surprise this is for him. She let out a hiss. The guy asked what she was doing. This wench is dying anyway, so it's not a sin for her to use this young man's body. Tianmi is definitely crazy. Yunling Chang is still alive. For the sake of her scheme, she tolerated this lord for a very long time. It's a good time to take out your anger by doing it right in front of her, and there was already someone standing behind her. She turned around with a shudder and saw that it was the Lordess. Yunling Chan explained that this girl disappointed her. She released the guy, unexpectedly. But on the day that Tianmi left, then the Lord came to him. As it turned out, the Lordess had long suspected her, but she had no proof. The kid shared his plan with her, and they finally got to the final scene of this wonderful performance. Because of the protagonist, all her plans were ruined. To prevent this from happening again, she decided to kill him. But she's not going to make it. The Elder sat in her room. She was rushed in by a student who informed her that it was bad. The game that had been going on for so long was suddenly under the control of a boy of unknown origin. She'll get rid of him to avenge her sister. But the elder stopped her. The kid sneezed. Now he realized what it felt like to be talked about. An apprentice came to him, relaying that the lordess had urgent business to attend to. The girl led him to the spot. A Misty Sect elder came out to him and replied that she had been waiting for this guy. The girl who translated the guy explained that it was the Grand Elder of the Misty Sect. The Lord's enemy has decided to come herself. That's not a good thing. She heard the boy have some sort of misunderstanding. It was rude of the elder. Tian Chen immediately asked the elder what she wanted. A bottle of concentrated chi energy was brought to him. It's very useful for a cultivator, but the elder's efforts still won't be rewarded, so he won't accept it. But this kid has chased away 4 baddies, so he's definitely earned this gift. The girl replied that the slave girls had long admired him. Therefore, they want to serve him. In addition, an elder of the Misty Sect wants to strike up a friendship with him. It seems the elder wants him to join her. The guy explained that he was the most ordinary laborer and would not dare to raise his status. The elder replied that he could leave, but the lad should think hard about her offer. The girl told the elder to leave him alone. She wants to do too much for him. The girl can take care of him herself. But not to worry, for soon the lad himself would be begging the elder. He was mentally thinking to get everyone off his back. The main character has a constant feeling that something is going wrong. Another woman fell on top of him. The guy helped her keep her balance and asked if she was okay. The girl only apologized. This lady is too weird. He's finally back. He's thirsty to death. Mentor noticed that someone had been in this room recently. He told his misbehaving student not to drink it, but it was too late. The elder began some sort of ritual. There was already a spider in his stomach that had laid its young, and he obviously felt it. With his power, the mentor recognized it as the mark of a bloodthirsty spider. It lays an egg in the victim's body that feeds on blood and flesh, and in the end, the victim dies. The only way out is to find another spider. But things are more bad. If he failed to kill the spider with one strike, it would get angry and cripple Tian Chen. Suddenly, the kid woke up. The mentor immediately became worried and asked what was wrong. The main character coughed up this spider. Unexpectedly, the bloodthirsty spider crawled out on its own. I think that spider is dead. The mentor suggested that it was because of the kid's special blood. The spider tried to absorb it and met resistance. He woke up and asked what had just happened. The mentor hadn't expected that Tian Chen would come to his senses so soon. A guy should let his teacher take care of him. The main character didn't understand what was going on with this old man at all. He explained that literally just now this spider was crawling over his body. Mentor wondered how effective this spider was for improving medicines. And they say that bloodthirsty spiders take the shape of an egg when danger is imminent. Could it be that the improved medicine spooked him? The mentor reminded him that an elder was watching him, so he asked what the protagonist was going to do. Even though he had managed to escape this time, but the old witch would absolutely pester him again. The elder remarked that the boy seemed to have thought things through carefully this time. The protagonist noticed a familiar face. It was the same girl who had recently crashed into him. Surprisingly, it was shaking for some reason. The kid realized that, in all likelihood, he didn't even have a choice. The elder replied that she only wanted to be friends with him. She has no intention of harming him. The guy asked again what she wanted him to do. The elder swept her eyes over the guy she wanted. Tian Chen realized that this was an even closer relationship than with the lordess. Since she doesn't demand anything difficult, she thinks the guy won't mind. The protagonist assumed that she wanted to use him as bait to take over as lord. This kid definitely got her wrong. As it turns out, she's not just doing it for herself. The guy asked if she was doing it all for a nebulous cult. Years ago, the Misty Sect was not a forbidden area. Many men and women lived here. From among them, they chose an apprentice to the lord. But no one expected people to be so unpredictable. The chosen boy took advantage of his trust in him and stole almost all the treasures belonging to the sect. In anger, the lordess expelled all men from the sect. Since then, men have been forbidden to join the obscure sect. But because of that, the sect lost a lot of talents. On top of that, the sect has a lot of enemies, and as a result, it is slowly crumbling. It turns out her goal is to use the protagonist to break the vicious cycle, to bring back all the able-bodied people and restore her to her former glory. As an elder, it can't just sit back and watch her sect weaken. No matter which way she has to go to her goal, despite the judgment from the outside, she has to move forward. Turns out the elder is so desperate. The boy even admires her. But he mentally recalled the time when the elder wanted to poison him, so he doesn't believe her at all. She asked the kid if he would help her. The boy shook his head, which meant yes. He decided to see what else the old witch would come up with. But the protagonist explained that the lordess is still against him. The elder will put men on him. She also hopes the guy keeps his mouth shut when he gets out of here. I mean, it's a secret. A girl was sitting near a tree, and another girl asked her if she was the one who stole it. She replied that she had nothing. Tian Chen remembered that it was the same girl. When the original owner of this body lost consciousness in the middle of the road, she was the one who saved him and carried him to the Misty Sect. She never left his side after that. She took care of the guy day and night. He noticed she was in trouble. A white balloon appeared near her and introduced himself to Dan, repeating his name several times. The girl asked why he got out and told him to climb back in. She realized that the wench had fed everything to that white balloon. Dan was starting to get angry. She definitely wanted to die. She swung her hand at her to kill the girl. She opened her eyes and realized that nothing had happened. The Dan was fine too. The main character appeared in front of her and asked if she was okay. The girl also remembered the face of the guy in front of her. He saw the magic pills in her hands and realized it was all thanks to them. The girl touched his clothes and said that he needed to leave quickly before his sister got really angry. Otherwise, they would be in trouble. The guy didn't answer. I shouldn't worry, as he wouldn't cause any trouble. The girl wondered why he even cared. Is there really any connection between them? The girl who was standing behind him were replying that she wasn't. The guy didn't explain that he saved their lord. Also, according to her inference, then they are also in some kind of relationship. The girl screamed for him to shut his filthy mouth and surrender at last. Does she really want the lad to tell of her insolence and arrogance to the lord? This time she decided to give up and replied that she was just lucky. They're gone. But the guy reminded them that he hadn't let them go yet. The girl turned around and asked with an angry look what he wanted from them. The protagonist swept up that they had forgotten to apologize to the girl. She started releasing a triple energy aura and replied that this guy was a simple handyman. She would teach him a lesson. Tian Chen also released his energy aura and asked if she really thought he was a simple laborer. It seems like this wench doesn't even know that using simple in combination with someone's profession is rude. If a girl contacts him, it's not going to end well. Her aura began to fade. She handed over the pills and apologized. Then they finally left. The girl thanked the protagonist for his help. But really, the guy is the one who should be thanking her. If she hadn't picked him up then, he'd be dead by now. He also finally asked what the girl's name was. She replied that the guy could call her Luli. Tian Chen recognized that she had a great name. He also noticed that she might not call him a young man, but by his first name, namely Tian Chen. Dan jumped out of her arms and wanted to be close to the protagonist. He took him in his arms and asked who the little guy was. Luli sat in nature and meditated. Suddenly something fell into the water in front of her. It was Dan, so she used these pills to heal the Dan. This little one was badly hurt, so she did what first came to her mind. He watched their interactions with a smile on his face. Suddenly he heard his mentor's voice in his head, who implied that he wasn't going to get better anytime soon. Dan began to turn in different directions, for he didn't realize what that sound was. Suddenly the girl realized that it was time for her to leave. Mistress will definitely be angry. Suddenly, a sword appeared from the mistress's room. Po used her technique to fend off that punch. After that, Yun Lingchang appeared and noticed that these days, the girl continued to cultivate. Luli greeted the mistress. Yun Lingchan asked if she had used all the pills. Luli replied that she had. The lordess noticed that every time she spoke an untruth, she blushed heavily and clenched her fingers. As far as she knew, her older sisters had taken most of the pills away from her. The girl replied that it was not their fault, and she had given them up voluntarily. The lordess inquired if her cultivation level was higher than theirs, so why didn't she fight back? Luli explained that they were family to her. She would not endure their suffering. Memories of her parents flashed through the lord's mind. Luli noticed the lordess clutching her clothes. Luli immediately tensed up and wondered if she had said something bad. The lordess replied that she just had an unpleasant memory come up. The lordess also suggested that her apprentice do something for her. He and the lordess haven't seen each other lately. The kid got the feeling as if it was intent on shunning him. But even now, he was not allowed to drink his tea in peace. He noticed a silhouette of some sort on the street, after which he immediately rushed after the striker. He realized that this man was trying to get him somewhere. This stranger had purposely led him to the barrier that separates the sect from the rest of the world. Also, the guy has swept up that this barrier is damaged. He so understands that this person wants him to leave the obscure sect. He was already being watched by the man who had recently attacked him. The girl didn't understand why the guy had stopped. The mistress told him to kick him out. She would have to attack again. The protagonist notices him being attacked from behind. He managed to dodge this attack. The man's movements may be sharp, but he doesn't hit vital organs. Behind him, he saw a hole in the barrier. The guy started to pretend that even if she killed him, he wouldn't abandon the lordess. Her sword stopped. Unexpectedly, Tian Chen is a decent young man. The girl didn't understand what she should do now. This was a great chance for him. He pulled off her mask. The protagonist didn't expect a luli to take the place of the attacker. They heard the voice of another person asking what they were up to. It was the elder. What a coincidence that she appeared at this very moment. The protagonist speculated that this old witch might have set the whole thing up. The elder ordered her female disciples to take them. Afterward, the Lordess arrived and told everyone to stop. She explained that it was a test that Luli had arranged. Now it was clear that there was something to worry about. The elder asked if it was a violation of the sect's rules that they left this guy here. The guy started to get embarrassed and yelled out what they were going to do to them. Until they purify that person's body, then it would be considered a violation of the sect's rules. The kid backed up, yelling for her to stay away from him. The elder, on the other hand, said she wouldn't hurt him. The elder knew it was important, so this boy should be patient. There's no way he can stand up to that old witch right now. So he's gonna have to figure something out. The thing was, he doesn't want to embarrass his little sister. Also, the guy explained that it's not just the body that will suffer from this. Is it really possible to just omit that fact so easily? If he wants to fight for his life, then he should show some courage. The protagonists would never have thought that with all their heart they would be this devoted to the cult. But it ended in a way that is even sad. The girl heard that he was the one who defeated the 4 villains and saved the Lordess. And that sneaky Tian was also exposed thanks to this guy. The protagonist realized it was helping. Now this witch can't do anything to him. Well, the elder certainly didn't think so. If he's so eager to die, she'll grant his wish. That wicked witch is seriously thinking about killing him. But he was successfully defended by the overlord. Rewards and rewards must be very clearly enforced. As punishment for his intrusion into the sect, he is already performing the duties of a laborer. But this guy has the power to help protect the sect, so he'll stay here as an apprentice. The elder noted that they knew nothing of his origins. Where's the guarantee that he won't do something weird in the future? They had accepted him into the cult themselves, so if anything happened, it would be their joint problem. Looks like it was the old witch who wanted to use the kid to overthrow the overlord. The elder realized that the Lordess had already made her decision, and now I had decided to retreat. The kid gave thanks for his rescue, but the Lordess simply turned away, ignoring him. The guy didn't understand what happened in his own behavior, because literally just now she had saved his life. Liuli explained that the mistress was counting on him to leave the sect secretly. The girl apologized to the boy for her foolishness. Although the Lordess seems cold on the surface, she is a good person at heart. The Lordess wondered if she had time for idle chatter. She had to practice the techniques they had learned last time. Dan said goodbye to the protagonist by waving goodbye. Mentally, the boy promised the Lordess that he wouldn't let that evil witch win. Mentor wondered if it was just him, or if this little one really felt his presence. During the night, another small fawn was killed when it was caught in the bait. In the morning, they learned that another spirit beast had been found dead. Like the previous victim, this one had also had all of its blood drained out. This is too cruel. Quite a few animals had died in all sorts of mysterious ways lately, and 80% of them were connected to that old witch. But the guy didn't understand what it was all about. He remembers his teacher saying that those who are parasitized by a bloodthirsty spider have a bloodlust. So that old witch is at it again. And the protagonist also noticed the subordinate elder. The boy asked his mentor if the spider egg from last time was still there. The white-haired man replied that it was a very dangerous thing. He wondered what the apprentice wanted to do with it. Naturally, he will control the man with this spider. A few days later, she heard voices saying that the Lordess was busy, so she could not be visited. The elder broke into her room anyway. She explained that she had a serious conversation to have with the Lordess. The girl called her too impatient, so she inquired as to why she had come. The elder explained that spirit beasts had been mysteriously dying lately. Doing a little investigation, she found out that Tian Chen, who is a disciple of the sect, was behind all the killings. Even more frightening is the fact that he is rumored to be a bloodthirsty demon with a restrained ego. The overlord asked if there was any evidence at all of what she was just saying. An apprentice ran in and informed the Lordess that bad things had happened. The girl explained that she had just discovered several bodies on the mountain, and they had died, just like those animals. It's not enough for animal blood, so it's going after humans too. The elder asked that we deal with it together as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the guy was pulling up, and didn't understand why so many people wanted something from him so early in the morning. The overlord wondered what he had been doing lately, but suddenly she noticed the blood on his arm. The guy explained that he was practicing with a sword and accidentally hurt himself. The elder told that bloodthirsty demon not to pretend anymore. The protagonist didn't even realize what kind of bloodthirsty demon they were talking about. It was clear that the old witch had no proof. The elder knew that he had a bloodthirsty spider, so only a little blood was needed. But suddenly the realization came to her that there was blood on the guy's hand. So why isn't anything happening yet? The disciple who was standing next to the elder didn't understand what her feeling was. So many animals had died that it must have caused a huge stir. Her shoulder was touched. It was the main character who had something to say to Tian Xing's sister, Tian Xing. It turns out that this man was interested in the girl, specifically trying to find meetings with her. That's pretty good. But what a shame he's become the elder's adversary. The guy grabbed her hands, and I replied that it was unexpected that Sister Tian Chen liked her too. He suggested that she leave the cult and start living together. The girl replied that she didn't really mind. In any case, life is too short. The fellow remarked that according to the traditions of his homeland, then the lovers should drink wine. He watched her drink the wine with a sly expression. It was only then that the girl realized something was wrong with the wine. The guy started complaining that his wounds seemed to have reopened. She couldn't take it anymore, and she wanted to taste that blood so badly. After that, she just wanted to eat that guy whole. Tian Xing attacked him, but the lordess rose to his defense. The girl asked if he was okay. The guy became embarrassed and replied that he was fine. He understood that the girl was very worried about him if she immediately rushed to defend him. Now it is clear what the elder called under the bloodthirsty demon. The elder didn't understand how he was actually able to catch the bloodthirsty spider. How it could have even happened in the first place. The lordess repelled all these attacks without much difficulty. Tian Xing replied that whoever tried to stand in her way would die. First, we must wait out this bloodthirsty demon, for other problems may arise. Maybe they can find the one behind it all. The guy picked up on the fact that for some reason it was suddenly so cold. All because the lordess used her ice technique. She was able to freeze Pulinshin. It was as if the girl had woken up and didn't understand how she could have become like this. It was amazing that she was able to return to normal. The mentor explained that bloodthirsty spiders can't stand the cold, so the spider host gets a chance to regain consciousness for a while. The elder realized that this was bad. If this wench returned to normal, she might give the elder away. Mentally, she asked not to be blamed for her ruthlessness. Yunling Chan asked if she was behind all the strange things that had been happening in this sect lately. The girl already wanted to explain herself, just as suddenly her heart was pierced. The lordess immediately turned to the elder and asked what it all meant. The elder explained that she was worried about the lordess. After all, this bloodthirsty demon was not in her right mind. The lord assumed that this girl worked for the elder, and the latter was worried that the entire sect would learn her secret. The elder knelt down and began to say that it was not her fault. The girl also asked to be punished for her crime. It was the old witch who admitted her guilt, but nevertheless, she had cleverly worked it out. And now, all responsibility has been shifted to Dead Shin. The lordess remarked that in that case, she could no longer hold the office of elder. She clearly didn't expect this outcome. The lordess began to show her power and asked what was wrong with her this time. There was nothing left for the elder but to obey the lord. She walked away with an angry expression. The elder realized that the bitch had trashed her. Now she had to find a way to get rid of her lord. Suddenly the girl felt sick. The guy caught her and asked her what happened to the lordess. He didn't understand why her body had become so cold. Tian Chen asked his mentor to help him find out what happened to the girl. The mentor explained that her body had accumulated ice poison. It was the result of her recent use of the ice technique. They need some kind of medicine. A little while later, she felt better. The girl asked if the guy's prescriptions could help cure her of the ice poison. The protagonist explained that it was an ancient remedy. It was used in his homeland. The girl replied that he could find everything he needed in the city. Also, Luli should go with him. Also, now that he is a member of the sect, he should change his identity so he won't be in trouble. The next day, the suburb of Anyang. They entered the tavern. Luli explained as it was getting late, and it was still quite a long way to the Onion. They could spend the night here. When the others looked at them, they didn't understand where the fairies had come from. As it turned out, the main character decided not only to change his identity, but also his gender. He's even got breasts. The transformation pill is working too well. Luli noticed that little sister was popular here. The transformed protagonist asked for 2 rooms, but no one responded. He had to cough to wake up this employee. The man didn't expect 2 ladies to want to stay with them. Somehow he was beginning to feel like he was going to get in even more trouble this way than he had before. The man explained that they only had 1 spare room. The man inquired if these ladies had companions. Luli already wanted to explain everything, but the protagonist shut her mouth in time. He explained that it had been a very long time since he and this little sister had seen each other. In his mind, he asked the girl not to forget who they were now. He gave 2 gold coins for 1 room. The man led them into a room. Meanwhile, the two men were discussing that such a pretty girl would be perfect for Brother Lee. Brother Joe is making fun of the two ladies. They look like noble maidens, but what if they are really nothing? Still, Brother Lee surrendered first. He suggested we go home as drinking alone was boring. Meanwhile, they were sitting at a table by candlelight. Their thoughts were plagued with why on earth they were still awake. Tian Chen explained that it was getting late and Sis needed to rest. Luli replied that he should go to rest first. He thought about the fact that there was only one bed here, so she should go to bed. And he would sit here all night. Luli was thinking the same thing, only she wanted to sit here. The kid stroked her head and asked his little sister not to argue and to behave. The girl started to undress, while the guy didn't look in her direction. He didn't understand why the tea was so bitter. The girl had completely forgotten that he was weak and wondered what would happen if he sat here all night and got sick. She wanted to offer her so-called little sister to share a bed together, but he didn't let her finish her sentence. Also, the kid pulled the curtains. The girl blushed and didn't understand what her little sister was doing. He whispered in her ear to be quiet, for there was someone outside. They were already being followed by a man who didn't understand why the curtains would be drawn in his sleep. Someone touched him and asked his brother why he was not going to bed. He replied that he was not to be distracted. He immediately backed up and replied that he wasn't a brother. But suddenly the man realized that this voice sounded familiar. It was Brother Zhao. The man replied that he was just passing by. But of course you can't say that about his clothes. They both realized that they had come here prepared. As it turned out, there were a lot of people hiding here too. Since they share a common enemy, they decide to team up for a while. A massacre has begun. Brother Lee let Brother Zhao choose first, and he will take the one that remains. He hadn't expected Brother Lee to be so generous. But the man threw his sword out of his hands and began coughing up blood. He cried out that his brother had poisoned him. Lee's brother decided to tell him something for the future. The man doesn't know how to choose, so he decided to take them both. But suddenly there was blood coming out of his mouth too. Brother Lee asked for the antidote to be given to him, but Brother Zhao replied to give it to him first. Brother Lee will give him the antidote if he gives him his too. Zhao replied that since Brother Lee does not give it, how can he even give him his antidote? They both ended up falling. The protagonist felt the movement outside the door stop. It looked like the fight was over. Luli asked if she could see what was going on. The protagonist replied that there was still danger, so she would have to wait here. They heard some more footsteps. These idiots are fighting to the death for nothing. They kicked down the door and went inside. The man asked these beauties not to be afraid, for he had received their letter. He is here to protect them. The guy suggested that someone had intentionally sent letters on their behalf and was deliberately provoking conflict. According to their letter, then it's time to repay the protection. They can do this with their bodies. The protagonist prepared to attack him, but someone had already slapped him. He took himself by the cheek and asked, "Yes, how dare they beat him?" They heard a man's voice saying that they should get out of here, or else blame themselves. The man asked if he thought he could intimidate him. If he is not afraid, they can fight. A man appeared behind him and started overpowering him with his sword. The blonde man recognized that this guy was good with a sword, and worthy to be his opponent. However, it's crowded, and one could easily injure his brothers. So he offered to fight another day. That bro better not use them as an excuse next time. As soon as the guy let them go, they immediately ran away. The guy also apologized for the fact that he may have scared these ladies in some way. The protagonist assumed that he was the instigator of it all. He shoved him out the door and thanked him for his help. But right now, the girls are in shock, so they'll talk later. Early morning the next day, a servant reported that two ladies had left the inn through the back doors early in the morning. The man also inquired about the barbaric bandits. However, in the end, the painted girl who was the transformed protagonist would be his. They were on their way to where they were going. The girl wanted to strike up a conversation sometime. The guy wondered if it was possible that she was still thinking about last night. In the end, Lord Situ saved them, and they left without even saying goodbye. She wondered if that was normal. The guy wondered if she didn't think everything that had happened last night had been planned by someone. The night they checked in, they attracted a lot of people, and there was a fight. After that man's words that they had received a letter to protect them, it confirmed his hunch. He thinks someone used their names to spread some rumor, and then put up a fight to settle it themselves. Judging by the end result, the person who best fits this characteristic is precisely the Situ Master. But in the end, it's just his guess. The girl wondered what to do then, if they had made a mistake and just offended a good man. It's clearly not that simple. Suddenly, the men from yesterday who had finally found these beauties came out of the bushes. They were surrounded. Luli didn't understand how they had found them. The protagonist asked his sister if she was bothered by misunderstandings from good people. No surprise if the good guy shows up right now to save them. And there indeed a sword appeared in front of them. It was the Situ master. He explained that they did not know the whereabouts of these bandits, and since he was concerned for the safety of the two girls, he followed them. They didn't expect this young man to have been hiding all along. In his hands was a pouch with some pills. Fortunately, he had prepared for this occasion. A little earlier, a girl in rags came upon the man. She was glad that she had finally found her brother, who had left home many days ago. Of course, the man didn't realize when he had time to have a sister. This pill that she personally prepared. After taking it, his strength will increase several times, and he will definitely be able to pass the family test. The other man, however, whispered that they didn't know where this girl was from, and she was a possible fraud. Does the subordinate think he doesn't know that? Turns out Big Brother just wanted to take advantage of her. However, he realized that with his current talents, he wouldn't be able to face strong enemies. He would not use such a strategy. So he decided to take this pill from his sister after all. She must have just confused him with someone else. He ate that pill. It seems like he made the right bet this time. This feeling of overflowing strength throughout the body is truly wonderful. This master threatened to take the bandit's life. It was just in time for him. Some kind of beast appeared in front of the Civ master, because of which he didn't have time to do anything. He also noticed that his adoring girlfriend was looking at him. He was already starting to worry about his safety, but everything seemed to be going according to plan. Guy, on the other hand, was thinking about the fact that a play based on this play is worth a lot. The master reassured the girls, for as long as he could breathe, they could not harm them. But a man appeared in front of him and slapped him in the face, telling him not to be so arrogant. Everyone was supporting Big Brother and shouting that he was omnipotent. But the man started to get angry and replied that they were too loud, which caused him to hit the man. The protagonist noticed that this guy had gotten a lot stronger. Situ realized that the pill had already begun to take effect. He sent his man to give this idiot an explosive key pill. After taking it for a while, he would be able to greatly improve his strength in a short time. But it has many side effects, and irritability is one of them. Jingran fights on equal footing with Lao, but suddenly his body began to swell. The worst part is that after taking this pill, spiritual energy can easily get out of control, and anything can happen. It really blew up. The wounded master came out to the girls. He reassured them that everything would be all right now, after which the guy fell into the arms of the main character, who is now pretending to be a woman. The protagonist had almost forgotten who he was now. He realized that this master had come for a reason, to save him. He's confused, but sooner or later he's sure to find out the truth. They also saw Master Situ's plaque. Luli noticed that it was the sign of the court of the Lord of the City. The boy asked her if she was sure. She confirmed the reality of this mark. It has a special aura mark on it. This guy's identity seems to be complicated. The protagonist assumed it was some kind of official. He is most likely being secretly protected by someone, and doing something about it at this point is not a good choice. It would be too risky to eliminate those people by force. If it gets out, then any of their activities in the city will be hampered. The protagonist had an idea. They put the master under a tree. Luli replied that it was no good. Tian Chen explained that this guy is a bad person, and besides, they are here for the sake of the sister, the city of Anyang. They settled in a city inn. After Tian Chen Laishia's caring care, he soon recovered. Laisha thanked them, for it was thanks to the care of these girls that he was able to recover so quickly. He also confessed that he was actually the son of the Lord of Anyang City. They were a little shocked when they heard about his real identity, or so it seemed. After all, the protagonist was not mistaken. He really suspected that this master was a powerful man. He figured the two beauties were in shock right now, so he should convince them even more. Tian Chen explained that he was injured when he was protecting them. The girls had to take care of the kid to at least repay him in some way. They were very grateful to him. Suddenly, Barking Xia took his hand. He immediately removed his hand, and even a little embarrassed. Under the overlapping of the main character's name is now Ms. Aiken. Lai Xia replied that he had long admired the lady. He finally took the bait. Now a way out for the Luli. She suddenly cried out that she was very cold and began to shake. She immediately fell into Ms. Aiken's arms. Lijah inquired about the girl. It's natural that the guy didn't know, because her sister's body now contains cold poison. It's spreading too fast. Luckily, she ran into an expert not too long ago, and he gave her a prescription. He said that this prescription could cure his sister's poison if they could find all the medicinal materials that were specified in the prescription. She had never encountered anything like this before. He immediately took the recipe from her and replied that it was very simple, so the girl could rely on him. As long as the recipe is in his possession, this beauty will desperately follow him. Tears of gratitude at his kindness appeared in her eyes. When he finds all the medicinal herbs, He will return to ask for Ms. Icon's hand in marriage. The main character praised her and said she played her role very well. Even though it was just an ordinary performance, it was the first time a guy had ever hugged her like that. It turned out to be such a nice feeling. He immediately waved his hand in front of her face to get her attention. She immediately pulled away from his body, and the guy didn't understand why on earth this girl was acting so strangely. She has to stay here and keep pretending to be sick. Just in case, he'll also go to look for medicinal herbs. The guy just can't leave the Lord's treatment to an outsider. He was finally able to get his real body back, and he could move around a lot better. He finally didn't have those big lumps on his chest. He started touching his imaginary breasts, realizing what he had just done. He felt very ashamed. He had to finish his business in the city quickly, or there would be trouble. He also heard cries that this old man was definitely blind. The man noticed that those boxes contained expensive healing herbs. He certainly couldn't afford them, but the old man explained that it was obvious that the man had pushed him first. The man swung his whip and asked if he was so eager to die that he dared to cross him, but his hand was stopped. Why young people are so fond of using violence to intimidate a poor old man. The man didn't understand at all where this boy, who obviously doesn't even know who the man is, was coming from. But the protagonist didn't put up with his yelling. He flew off a couple of meters, and the protagonist explained that he had to do it himself. The man stopped so they could kill the brash man vigorously. The guy pointed back and asked if he was really saying those words to these guys. They were all battered. They shouted that they'd have time to deal with this guy yet. The young man approached the old man and asked if he was okay. The old man thanked the young man for saving him. If it hadn't been for this guy, he would have been killed for sure. This old man has nothing of value, but he recently picked up an interesting item in a cave. He wanted to give it away as a thank you. The mentor advised the student to take it, for it was a good thing. He thanked the old man. Tian Chen asked his mentor what was so special about this copper plate. The mentor appeared behind him and explained that this copper plate had a spiritual imprint that was exclusively used in cultivation. Supposedly, there should be some good skill scroll hidden inside. He must put some of his spiritual energy into this copper plate. The protagonist focused and put spiritual energy into it. As it turned out, this copper plate actually had a spiritual skill called instant stepping. 2 hours later, he was trying to master the skill. The mentor made sure the kid didn't overexert himself, or he might get in trouble. He heard a question about how long the stinky little boy was going to hide for. It was the battered man who again explained that it was time for this guy to die. Looks like last time wasn't enough for him. He should not become conceited and open his eyes to recognize the one who stands before him. He certainly didn't expect to see him here. It was a barking Sha who asked them if he was the one who had beaten up his men. Tian Chen explained that his subordinates didn't know the rules of decorum, so he decided to teach them a little lesson. But the guy explained that only the owner could hit his dog. He activated the 6th sphere. A snake appeared beside him. There was an explosion. This garbage is really weak, but no one expected this guy to still be alive. Looks like luck is on his side today. The man decided to try another skill as well, but the protagonist dodged those blows with ease, and he used a really weird skill to do it. Now it was his turn, but Barking didn't think to back down so quickly. Those needles went through him, after which they hit a tree. Lai Shi didn't even know what kind of skill it was that caused him to be able to avoid an attack at such a short distance. The kid jumped away from them. He wanted to practice his new skill in this fight, but he didn't expect it to absorb so much power. Lai Xia also noticed that this skill required a lot of strength, and he would no longer be able to use it. Behind him, there were already people sitting in ambush behind him as well, targeting him. They put all their arrows on the protagonist, but this axe repelled all the arrows that flew at him. Another man came to his defense. They seemed to recognize the newly arrived boy, whose name is Tu Li, so it turns out it's the protagonist's man. Tu Li explained that he just couldn't leave his brother in the lurch. Situ Nan began to get even angrier. The kid wondered if he really wanted to do this. More new people joined their battle. Fortunately for the protagonist, luck is definitely on his side. But Situ Nan will be back again. Tian Chen noticed that this guy had made that bastard leave. He must not be an ordinary person. Tu Li started complaining that it was too boring. The protagonist thanked his brother for his help. Tu Li inquired who he was and why on earth he dared to call him brother. It's clear now that he just wanted to prevent Situ Nan. But the relationship between them is like water and fire. Perhaps he can use it in the future. The first priority had to be to raise the level as soon as possible to deal with the rest of the problems. The mentor said that only a small amount of medicinal herbs were required to refine the Ningling liquid. They certainly don't have to cost a lot. But in the end, he was left with only 1 gold coin. The herbal medicine vendor waved him off and told him to come back for more. The mentor asked his student not to be upset. After all, it was only a few hundred gold coins. but the boy still mourned for his money. Mentor's point was that he'd yet to find out how cheaply he'd gotten it. That condensing liquid smells pretty good. We have on them immediately took away this remedy, saying that Tian Chen will die this way. The boy inquired if it was not given to him for drinking. If he takes one sip, he could spend the rest of his life bedridden. He poured this liquid into the water, after which the guy stripped off his clothes and got in there. A few hours later, he advanced to the third sphere. This liquid is truly amazing. It was able to advance 2 levels at once. The teacher turned his back on him and asked if he still wanted his money back. If the mentor continues to make this liquid, he can advance very quickly. His mind was already racing with dreams of his level and being upgraded again. But his mentor snapped him out of his reverie. The reason it has risen so quickly is because for a long time there has been stagnation in its channels. And this spiritual fluid can only be used from time to time. Just by taking a bath, one can improve oneself. He immediately started thinking about peaches. When he was buying medicinal herbs, he inquired about the herbs that Big Sister needed. And 2 rare herbs could only be purchased at the auction in the city. It was time to get them. Meanwhile, the girl was also keeping somewhere to go. She was surrounded by men who wondered where Sister was in such a hurry. He knows the city well, so he can take her wherever she needs to go. She told them to get out of here. She's got a pretty stubborn temper. But he likes this girl anyway. But his hand was stopped. The girl had told him to get out of there, so why shouldn't he really leave? Her aura began to dissipate. This boy dared to cross Lao Tzu without even knowing who he was. He really doesn't understand why these bastards always want to inform him of their origins. Especially when the opportunity arises. With his strength, he immediately threw the man aside. He was also attacked from behind by 2 men. He got rid of them with ease. After those 3 men left, he turned to Miss to ask if she was okay, but there's no sign of her anymore. This girl is weird, he thought. Star auction. The protagonist was asked to show identification. Tian Chen replied that he didn't seem to have his ID card with him. Before he came to the city, he had heard that to enter the auction house, one must have an ID card to symbolize stats, and at least a black iron card to symbolize that he had 10,000 gold coins. He was told that no one could enter the auction house without an ID. The guy, however, replied that he had an item to sell for a very high price. So he asked if he could use the item to gain the right to enter the auction house. The man was asked if he knew that the minimum requirement to enter the auction house was 10,000 gold coins. The protagonist replied that he knew that. So the man asked if something in such a broken bottle could be worth as much as 10,000 gold coins. They think this guy's just lying. That's why he had the guards take him out. Suddenly, they were stopped by a man who told the guards to be vigilant. It was Manhwa Recap. Everyone greeted the master. The master inquired as to what this person wanted to auction off. The guy explained that it was a condensation spiritual liquid qi that could increase one's cultivation speed, without any side effects. Manhwa Recap decided to take a look at her. He began to study the composition in this liquid. Afterward, the old man learned that it was a spiritual liquid of the highest quality. Also, the guy mentioned that he has more than 1 bottle of this spirit liquid. So he inquired if he could now enter this auction house. Manhwa Recap replied that of course he could enter here. They are happy to welcome this guest to the auction house. He was holding an exclusive VIP card for the auction house. With this card, he can freely enter any of their branches. And the tax rate for each auction will be reduced from less to 3%. In addition, the auction proceeds will be credited to it immediately. People realized that it was over, because this time they had offended, and not the right person at all. He also asked the guy to be careful because there are steps. Fortunately, he was so happy that he even forgot about them. But the old man reminded them that as of tomorrow they were no longer working here. Now they realized that they had definitely not been forgotten. Meanwhile, at the auction, the girl asked if they were interested in the item in her hand. It was a white Ganoderma. The price is really good. Seeing their reaction, the protagonist wondered if they had come here just to buy things. A new item from the auction has just arrived, and she thinks everyone will be very interested in looking at it. This merchandise is called Condensation Spiritual Liquid QI. This elixir can greatly increase one's cultivation speed. A man wondered if there would be any side effects. Others also wondered if it might be a fake. The girl replied that this item was personally identified by the auction master. This is a top-notch liquid that has no side effects. It was evident that all the men were now listening to her. She announced that the starting price was 50,000 gold. They started raising the bet as high as 70,000 gold pieces. Before leaving, the teacher purified a small batch of condensing liquid. Although cheap medicinal material was used, the goal was achieved. He also noticed a familiar silhouette. Thule offered 200,000 gold pieces. It's just a bunch of stinking fish, and none of them would dare fight him for the goods. This liquid is used for accelerated cultivation, and it must cost a lot of money. Someone offered 210,000. The fact that someone decided to mess with him made the guy choke up. It was none other than Situnan. Of course, the man recognized the brother of that Li as well. If he remembers correctly, he bought a batch of cultivation improvement pills last week. That's too much for him alone. The guy thanked him for his concern and explained that he was buying them as a gift for a man. Tu Li offered 220,000. Situnan offered 230,000 this time. After a while, they agreed to Tu Li offered 600,000 and asked if he would raise the bid. After waiting for the maximum price to rise, he would stop to have their Situnan bought at a frantic cost. His target was not this liquid, but the fellow replied that since his brother liked the lot so much, he had decided to concede it. He really didn't expect to be fooled. The girl congratulated the Tu Li master on her purchase at their auction. Situnan also congratulated brother Tu Li. He started to get angry, but security guards showed up and explained that he needed to abide by the auction house rules, so the boy had to calm down. The protagonist celebrated that thanks to these two idiots, the price had increased several times over. It is said that the next item that is up for auction in this auction is a relic left behind by one great master. If they manage to unravel the mystery of this relic, it will bring endless wealth. There was an interesting aura emanating from this item. The mentor informed the apprentice that he felt that this item hides a strong aura. He should buy it. For such a valuable treasure, the protagonist thinks there will be a lot of competition. But surprisingly, no one even thought to place a bet. He didn't understand why on earth all these people seemed disappointed. Everyone knows that this treasure is sealed with a strong aura, and ordinary people like them can't retrieve it. If you can't get rid of the aura, then it's just trash. This was his chance. Looks like he's getting some pretty good stuff this time. The girl was also ready to announce the mystery reward at the auction. They just need to buy this flower, and they will get this girl as a gift. Everyone clearly liked this hottie. It was unexpected that even people could be auctioned off here. The guy admitted that it was a little strange. It is used as a tool. The starting price was 3,000 gold coins. They dramatically raised the price to 10,000. Tu is already bored with all these girls that surround him, so he wants something new. This hypocrite is always watching his reputation, and this time he will definitely not compete with him for this girl. This little sister is going to be his new toy. He put the price at $100,000. He already had fantasies in his head with her helping him wash. All of a sudden, someone bets 110,000. Tu Li got angry and turned around to see who decided to interrupt him this time. He noticed the protagonist, but of course he didn't recognize him. Tu didn't understand what the guy was staring at. He also saw that Situnan's servant was saying something in his ear. The kid assumed he had something to do with Situnan. He must have invited this guy here. Situnan just wants to use old tricks. He won't step on the same rake twice. Meanwhile, Situnan thought, does this person really want to use a woman to flatter him? This is really absurd. Tu Li touched his shoulder and explained that he didn't expect his brother to hire another person just to buy this girl. Situnan asked Tu Li what he was carrying. It was clear that Tu Li was trying to provoke him to damage his reputation. This time he decided to give this girl to him. However, he may no longer worry about his former reputation. It turns out that Master Situnan is also interested in this woman. There's no need to stand on the road outside the city lord's mansion because of a mere woman. The girl congratulated the young master on his purchase. He could pick up his scroll. And now for the last item in today's auction. It was a spiritual skill called Rage. Of the 2 medicinal herbs he mentioned, only Li Shuang is available to them. The protagonist inquired if the man could sell it to him. He's sorry, but not too long ago all the medications they had in stock were bought by one customer. He assumed that all the treatment materials had been purchased by Situnan in advance. The boy thought he would need to find out about it. Now he has to be a girl again. A girl who was following the protagonist asked Sir if he was now taking her to his house. The guy turned around and realized he had completely forgotten about her. He took off her chains and replied that she could leave. She got on her knees and promised that she would follow all his orders and not run away. The guy explained that she had gotten it all wrong and he was actually letting her go. He also gave her 2 gold coins. Tian Chen told her to leave this place and go back to her home, but tears came to her eyes. She was grateful to him. The girl did leave. Meanwhile, the protagonist was already being watched by someone. The man recognized that this was the very guy Master Situnan was looking for. But also the 2 of them were already being watched by someone as well. It was the same girl he had recently helped. A man approached him and said that his leg hurt so badly, so he asked the protagonist to help him walk home. The kid unsuspectingly asked this old man where his house was. The old man pointed down the street and said his house was at the end of this alley. There were already people waiting for them. A man came running over to them and explained that they were on their way. They were on the 6th layer of the sphere, but surprisingly it was a girl. They pointed guns at her and asked her who she was, but it's certainly not something that dead people need to know. Meanwhile, the protagonist carried the old man on his back. The old man asked the young man to be released, but the guy's savvy is that they haven't even arrived yet. Eventually, the old man jumped off on his own and apologized, then started running away. And then it dawned on the kid that he'd just been duped. As he was running, he noticed dead bodies of people. The boy did not understand what had happened here. There was also something flying at him. It was a spear along with some kind of sack. There was a flower inside. The guy learned that it was a silver flower called Li Shuang. He also noticed a feather falling near him. This feather almost fell to the corpse. It's just horrifying toxicity. Judging from the old man who had just escaped, these people wanted to ambush him. But someone came before the protagonist and poisoned all of them. But the guy didn't understand who this mysterious person was who even gave him the silver Li Shuang flower. The only people who know he needs this medicinal flower is Big Sister, Luli, Master Feng Tan, Situnan, and Aya from the auction house. And he understood you, who could be the most likely of them, who could help him. Meanwhile, the girl sat in the house and realized that Big Sister should have returned by now. For some reason, she had been walking for too long, and now she's finally back. She immediately ran up to her sister and asked if the gentleman was all right. The girl nodded silently. She thanked her older sister for helping his master, and asked if she could go with her older sister. Roman boyfriend suggested that this little girl might have been hired by the auction house on purpose. The more he thought about it, the more his head hurt. The boy realized that he needed to find all the right medicinal herbs as soon as possible and get back to treating his sister. What remains to be found is the last medicinal material, which is called the crystal nucleus. But it can't be bought at the auction. Meanwhile, masked men were running and a man to the higher-up inquired about what happened that even they were summoned. Another kid heard that a crystal core with a rare fire attribute was found in a mountain cliff near the city. It was perfect for cultivating a lord. Fortunately, the protagonist also heard their story. It was a great chance for him to pick up a crystal core with the rare fire attribute. Another man who had indigestion ran after them. He was captured by the protagonist. He changed into the man's clothes, and he left the other man tied up in the alley. Another masked man told the trailing man to catch up with the others. As it turned out, their master was Tuli. He explained that they had anti-poison pills in their hands. There is a lot of poison gas in the mountains, and with these pills they would not have to worry about it. They all took these pills. The protagonist pretended to accept her as well. Tuli also promised that regardless of whether they found something or not, they would each receive 100 gold coins. Everyone was overjoyed at the news. Tian Chen realized that this is also a guy from an unusual family, but he seemed somehow too proper. The kid didn't understand why there was already a sudden change in the weather. A fiery snake appeared in front of him. The mentor warned the guy to be careful, for this snake with fire attribute was most likely at the first layer of the Manhwa realm. He didn't expect this snake to be so strong and so big. He also noticed it had a crystalline core. Tuli explained that whoever kills this snake will receive 10,000 gold coins. The guy realized that these people were just cannon fodder. They were shaking with fear, for this beast would definitely not be easy to deal with. But they could defeat the beast if they attacked together. The guy can't reveal his identity here yet, but that snake quickly fried 3 people. They now realized that with this snake, they had a very big difference in levels, so they wouldn't even be able to handle it. They can try to cover their master's retreat, but really, they don't even have to do that. Just lend him something. He has another way to deal with that snake. The people inquired as to what they should lend to their master. The guy explained that it had to be their lives. Suddenly, they were no longer in control of their bodies. It must have been that pill. The snake has dealt with the remnants. He knew there was something wrong with that pill. It was a good thing he'd trusted his gut and not taken it. Tuli recognized that this beast was indeed strong, but he had a way to overpower this snake. He imprisoned her in some kind of barrier. These pills were very expensive, and he bought them specifically to treat her to fresh meat. But even so, this snake had no thought of staying in the cage. The guy assumed it was due to a fireball. That fire snake finally decided to deal with the kid. But it was her attack that wasn't even too strong, surprisingly. The snake just fell. Tuli thought it was the snake that had stopped spewing fire because it was afraid of him. But that snake abruptly came to life again. It tossed the boy. After that, she just crawled away. When he catches that stinky take, he's sure to fry it. But he didn't even notice someone rushing past him and chasing after that snake. Tian Chen didn't expect this snake to be so fast. Fortunately, he had learned the right skill for that. But suddenly she disappeared somewhere. But then he realized that he could feel an aura fluctuation nearby. That snake must definitely be around somewhere. He felt a lust for killing from behind him, and there was indeed a snake already attacking him. The guy didn't think of giving up so easily either. This snake had been severely injured and had been running away for a long time. Its physical strength must be at its limit by now. He decided to seize the opportunity right now. The protagonist used an instant cut. That snake was finished. He took the fire crystal core. He also got some kind of fluid from the snake on him. His body is paralyzed. He can't even use his aura. He heard a shout for him not to even try to escape. Tian Chen thought that that guy might have already caught up with him. What should he do now? I finally thought I'd found him, but he never thought he'd find such a beauty here. He asked the girl why she was alone in such a dangerous place. The girl explained that she had come to the forest to pick mushrooms, but had gotten lost. He also inquired if she had seen any strange person here. She replied that recently a strange masked man ran through here and fought a large snake, but they both seemed to have died. If they died together, the core must be somewhere nearby. He senses it's close by. The aura of the crystal core is too strong and hard to hide. If he discovers this core, he will begin to doubt his identity. So he thought it best to show off this core he had seemingly found on the ground at once. He immediately took the crystal core from her hands and helped her up. The guy also thanked the beauty for helping him a lot. She would be very grateful. The guy decided to go after him first, and later he would try to get that crystal core back somehow. This time, not only did he get a crystal core, he also got a beauty. Luck is really on his side today. In just a few days, Tian Chen had gained Tu Li's full trust. He noticed the girl sigh. Tu Li inquired of the beauty what had happened, and whether she had been wronged by anyone here. She replied that it's not like that. Tu Li asked him to tell her what had happened, and if possible, he would try to help her. This guy is taking very good care of her, but her little sister is alone now. He immediately perked up when he learned that this girl had a younger sister. He told her to hurry up and go to her. The girl explained that her sister had a very serious illness. Fortunately, a kind person helped her, and he barely saved her life. But in order for her to make a full recovery, she needed one rare medicinal material, namely, a crystal nucleus. Tu Li realized that he only had one crystal core right now, and he needed it for cultivation. That's why he said he doesn't have a core right now. But she could always bring her sister here. He'll have the best doctors in town examine her. The girl immediately hugged the guy and thanked her brother Li. Her sister is very weak, and she will take care of her own arrival here. This guy doesn't seem to want to give the main character the crystal core, so he needs to come up with something better. Sichu Nan asked his subordinate if they had found all the medicinal materials they needed. The man replied that they had found all the medicinal materials the master had asked for. Except for 2, because they turned out to be very rare. The master was beginning to get angry that they had not fully carried out his orders. The man immediately got on his knees and begged farewell from the Lord. Another subordinate arrived to join him. He reported something in his ear. As it turned out, the girl even took the initiative to invite Yu-Man to meet her. He thought she was beginning to lose her patience. Or perhaps she had come to him to discuss his proposal. Situnan heard that she was looking for him on important business. Ms. Aiken said that from the day they met, the man always treated her with care. She wished she could always follow him. It was all for the sake of her older sister. At first, the guy was happy when the girl said such nice words. But then she replied that she couldn't find all the medicinal materials from her list. But she asked this gentleman very much to help her sister. For this, she will be very grateful to him. Then he would immediately go in search of the remaining medicine. And when he returned, he would be sure to ask for her hand in marriage. The man heard what they were talking about. It was Tu Li's subordinate, who reported to the master that things were really bad right now. He immediately began to get angry at the pair of dogs. And the boy immediately noticed her coming out. He poked a finger at her and asked how she even dared to come back. She immediately started crying. The girl explained that she hadn't expected him to be so frivolous at heart. After all, it was all wrong. Tu Li asked what the relationship between the girl and that sly fox was. The girl explained that this guy had been molesting her for a long time. And this time he found out somehow about her sister's illness. He can save his sister's life if she marries him. Though she knew he had evil intentions, she would have to feed this wolf with her body for her poor sister's sake. After her sister recovers, she asked Tu Li to look after her. She would no longer be able to take care of her with such a filthy body. She dramatically said goodbye to Brother Li, and said that they would see each other in the next life. He grabbed her arm, yelling for her to stop. He decided to give her the crystal core she so desperately needed. The girl noticed that it was the exact same object she had found then. The guy explained that he just didn't know at the time what it was. Tu Li took it to an appraiser who said it was the crystal core it was so looking for. She thanked her brother Li. When her sister recovered, she would personally thank her for this guy, a beautiful girl who desperately needs his help. And so does her little sister. He immediately pictured her little sister talking about how she had nothing to repay her brother for his kindness. So she asked the girls to stay here and serve him. He told the beauty to come back quickly, for he would be waiting for her. He finally managed to get his hands on that crystal core. We need to get back to Luli and get ready to escape. He wondered why Luli hadn't reacted to his news. She noticed that Situ Nan was there for some reason. The man realized that she certainly hadn't expected to see him here. He hinted that if he didn't get home in time, it would never be possible to see her again. The girl asked how this could happen. She had promised to stay here after all. The guards brought Liuli in. The girl apologized for she had been caught trying to escape. Ms. Aiken inquired as to what he wanted to do. She should have known, for how much of his energy he spent on her alone. Luli yelled for sister to run away and she would stay here. The girl asked for her sister to be released. And then she will go with this particular guy. If he doesn't, she'll die with her. The master ordered the girl to be released. The man also allowed the girl to approach her sister. She whispered something in her ear. Lee is sure to save him. City Lord's mansion. She was lying on the bed all tied up. Men have waited a very long time for this moment. Tian Chen just couldn't believe that it was a guy who would be the one to pick him up for the first time. Situ Nan promised that he would be gentle. She screamed for him to stop, for if he did, he would deeply regret it. It was time, and he would take good care of her. He simply has no other choice. He immediately recoiled from her and didn't understand how this had even happened. He was just shocked that she actually turned out to be a guy. Tuli and Luli arrived to rescue his sister. He didn't realize what the situation was at all. The protagonist shouted out for his brother to save him. He immediately looked at the others to see who he was addressing. The guy didn't even realize it was him that was being called. When he asked about it again, the protagonist nodded. He untied the boy and assumed that he was the beauty's older brother. He also asked where she had gone. He made a sad expression on his face as he started talking about his sister. Tuli immediately touched the kid and asked what happened to her. The protagonist blamed it all on this man, for he had killed her. Tuli immediately wanted to kill all of Situ Nan. Situ Nan started to defend himself with his sword, and explained to this idiot that that woman and him were the same person. He was fooling all of them. Tuli asked if he couldn't even tell the difference between a woman and a man. This attack caused him to drop his sword. After that, he had already covered himself with his hands to at least protect himself. But that one was stopped by the hand technique. This is the Horoscope Lord's mansion, and they even dared to put up a fight here. Situ Nan's father appears, who is in the first layer of the mysterious realm. His name is Lao Situ. Of course, Situ Nan was happy to see his father. Using his technique, he captured the men who wanted to harm his son. How dare that old man even dare to attack him? His father would definitely not like it if he found out about it. If it wasn't for that father, he'd have squashed him like a fly by now. He was able to make people hold their breath with his aura alone. This old man is definitely a big problem. He also paid attention to the main character and just wanted him to die. The lord of the city indiscriminately attacks people. Doesn't this town have any laws at all? Lao Situ replied that he was the personification of the law. The girl got on his defense that he would leave and she would stop him, but unfortunately, she was unable to stop this attack. She opened her eyes. The main character called her silly and told her to hide behind his back next time. She was in his arms and she definitely heard that advice. The kid noticed that more attacks were already coming at them from the formidable enemy. He began to dodge them with a lightning-fast stride. The city lord definitely didn't expect this guy to be able to dodge his golden palm. This technique of his is too weird. Since the old man had already played around, now it was his turn to attack. It was hard to think that this guy even dared to go against the city lord. He even speculated that the true strength of the protagonist was more than just a condensation sphere. Tian Chen replied to make sure that he would die from this sword. He had secured himself and wanted to see what this young man was capable of, but clearly no one expected what happened next. He simply took the girl in his arms and ran away with her. Tuli asked the kid to leave his address so he could visit him and his sister. They returned to the Miaojing mansion. He finally opened his eyes and recognized that he was in his room. A girl came in with a bowl of water and a towel. As soon as she saw the main character waking up, the bowl and towel immediately dropped. She immediately jumped into his arms, because she was very happy that her brother had finally woken up. He asked what had happened after they had escaped from the city lord's mansion. The boy tried to hide his embarrassment. The girl explained that they had reached the sect gate together, but he had fainted due to excessive strength. Fortunately, the master took care of him in time. It turns out the master saved him again. She picked up the bowl and wished him a good rest. She won't bother him. The master had swept up that after traveling to the city of Anjan, it seemed his luck was still with him. Finally, the teacher decided to show up after how long. But the mentor explained that he just wanted to prepare him for a turbulent future. He had just finished grooming his face. Doing it after every fight is very tiring. The boy picked up on the fact that the teacher seemed to be talking about a bit of the wrong thing. The mentor asked him to ignore the little things, because he even had good and bad news. He asked which news the boy wanted to hear first. The protagonist decided to listen to the good news first. The master has opened the spiritual scroll. Now he can get any treasure he wants. Tian Chen wondered what about the bad news. The mentor explained that this scroll was only one of the fragments. They would have to get the rest of the pieces to find the treasure. He changed his clothes and went outside. He also thought about the fact that he hadn't seen his older sister for a long time. He wondered how her cold poison treatment was going. He wanted to enter her room, asking permission before doing so. But suddenly he saw the very ice that was familiar to him. He immediately burst into her room. The girl was almost all ice. It's unclear how long this has been going on. The guy speculated that it might be because she spent a lot of energy to save the protagonist. That's what caused her cold poison to activate. The boy asked his mentor what happened to his sister. The mentor explained that the situation was not good. She had spent too much energy fighting the cold venom. He ordered his disciple to remove her clothes. The guy didn't expect the teacher to say, "This is really serious." The teacher insisted. "Because they have too little time. We have to hurry before the poison reaches the middle vein." He asked his sister not to take offense. He positioned the needles on her back. After that, Tian Chen asked the teacher what to do next. The mentor ordered him to infuse his aura into her. The girl suddenly pressed herself against him, indicating that she was very cold, but he wanted to push her away. The mentor told him not to push the girl away, for his inner chi would speed up her recovery. The guy's gonna have to be patient for a while. Some kind of essence started coming out of her. The boy didn't know what it was. The mentor explained that because the cold poison had been accumulating for a long time, it had acquired a physical solid form. Only by destroying it could it be completely cured. But the guy realized that his skill was not enough to resist this poison. It was almost completely covered in ice. He also saw a crystal core with the attribute of fire that might be able to help him. Therefore, the guy reached for it. He already wanted to eat that kernel. The teacher warned him not to dare eat it. But because of that, he was able to overcome the ice that almost enveloped his entire body. Yunling-chan also woke up. The protagonist inquired about his sister and if she was okay. The girl did not understand what he was doing here. The girl also noticed that she had been stripped. She called the guy a pervert. The protagonist asked his sister to listen to him. He could explain everything. Suddenly, the girl noticed that the cold venom in her body was gone. At first, she didn't understand what had happened at all. Well, then the memories of what came before flashed through her mind. Now she realized that the guy had actually saved her. But suddenly, the main character started seeing two sisters. He fainted. The girl found out that luckily he was just having an overabundance of aura and would wake up soon. This guy didn't take such good care and almost died. He was willing to sacrifice himself for her. She had heard talk of a criminal showing up in this class not too long ago, causing their lives to be in danger. It was a former elder whom I asked for permission to enter. The girl realized that if he was seen, there could be trouble. So there was only one way out. A woman with other students wanted to enter. After that, they saw the lady lying on her bed. They asked what had happened. The girl replied that she had overdone it a bit at the last training session, which made her tired. They wished the lady a speedy recovery, after which they left. One day he thought that if he could help his sister get rid of the cold poison, maybe her attitude toward him would change, but he hadn't expected them to even get to that point. She covered his mouth and told him to be quiet. The girl wanted to explain that nothing had happened between them, and she wanted to clear up the misunderstanding, but the kid told his little sister not to say anything. He decided to take responsibility. She didn't realize what responsibility he had just spoken of. The girl immediately stood up and answered him not to talk nonsense. It was not at all what he might have thought. The boy inquired then what it was. She didn't say anything. Whereupon the girl told him to get up and go change first. But she observed that he was too weak now, and it would be better for him to stay in bed until he was fully recovered. The boy complained, for he did not understand why his body hurt so much. She grabbed his arm, telling him to wait. He hadn't expected her to be so strong. They accidentally kissed. Their hearts were beating too fast and too loud. After which, she told the kid to get up off of her. But the protagonist was only thinking about the fact that the sister had kissed him. It really was a kiss. She pecked him on the cheek to bring him to his senses. He didn't understand why on earth he had been hit, even if it wasn't his fault. The girl wanted to ask if he was okay, but he immediately bounced away from her, yelling for her to stay away. She repeated again that it was not what he thought it was. Yunling Chang ordered that he should stay here and rest. Thankfully, nothing happened this time. The memory of the girl telling him he would be a slave for life flashed through his mind, but she'd made the point that if he dared, even dare, to tell anyone about today, the girl would cut off his tongue. He really doesn't understand female logic. Her face changed in an instant. A few days later, he has finally recovered and can now safely go out to get some fresh air. He also remembered that today was a special day, namely Luli's birthday. Also, he hadn't even thanked her for saving him yet. The guy thought he should think of a nice gift for her. He wondered what he could get the girl, so he finally came up with an idea. After he cured his older sister, she allowed him to enter the treasury. This is where he's sure to find the perfect gift. He took the protective amulet. The girl explained that it could resist attacks below the Jade Realm. The protagonist realized that this was exactly the gift he was looking for. Meanwhile, the girl was already waiting for him. Tian Chen said that he had a surprise for her. She had no idea what it could be. The guy closed her eyes and answered her not to be afraid, because it was him. She should keep her eyes closed for now. She did as the guy said, and he pulled out a necklace to put around her neck. She can open her eyes now. He inquired if she liked it. The girl wondered why he had given it to her today. The girl wondered why he had given her such an expensive gift. The guy already wanted to explain that it was her birthday, but Luli thought it was the Qiqiao festival today. He really wants to tell her that. So she covered his mouth so she wouldn't hear what he was thinking of saying, and the girl replied that she understood. She had wanted to tell him for a long time. The guy wondered if she had misunderstood him and what she was talking about. It felt like she wanted to confess to him. He felt that the atmosphere had become so tense. Had things really gone wrong? She yelled out that she liked the guy. While she and her brother were traveling in Anyang City, the girl fell in love with him. But she thought it was unrequited love. But unexpectedly, he was also interested in the girl and expressed his intentions during the Qiqiao festival. The guy explained that it was just the way the day happened and she had gotten it all wrong. It was all a misunderstanding. Tian Chen said that it was her birthday present. She clearly hadn't expected him to shatter all her dreams like that. The guy explained that he only looked at her as a sister. It was a blow that was clearly to her heart. Tian Chen swept his eyes over the fact that he actually already had someone he liked. Tears appeared in her eyes. The girl reported that she was not feeling well, so she would be the first to leave. She really didn't understand why it had happened. As it turned out, she had just made it up. Suddenly, a former elder appeared in front of her. The girl was very brave. Despite the rules and religion, she still confessed her feelings to him. Luli said she could explain everything. The elder explained that she had already seen it all. She sat down on her knees and said that if the elder decided to punish her, she would accept it. But the elder won't tell anyone about it. She'll even help her get what she wants so badly, provided that Luli obeyed her instructions. The girl wondered what those instructions were. The elder told her to become her man. Master had always treated her well, so she shouldn't tarnish Master's name with her actions. The elder explained to her not to be in a hurry to refuse her, and she should think it over carefully. The girl could give her answer at any time. If she wants to get this guy, the elder is her only chance. The next day, the girl realized that she would have to tell the master everything that had happened last night. Luli had heard rumors that the mistress and a man named Tian Chen had an unusual relationship, but Madame hates men. As it turns out, Sister Zhou saw him enter the treasury yesterday. You can only go in there with Madame's permission. The girl wondered if the pendant her boyfriend had given her was from there. Their master is too kind. It might be true between them that you are. Moreover, she heard that the master personally trains with him. They saw a Luli coming this way. The girl explained that she had actually told her all this about Sister Zhou. She had only retold those words. Those two girls are gone. She knocked on the master's room, but she wasn't there. Her teacher used to always visit her at this time. Liuli didn't understand why she didn't come. We should go and apologize to Tian Chen for yesterday. She heard a question as to why the sister was here. The girl told him to lie down and not to move. Luli didn't understand why the teacher was here. She heard a snippet of conversation about not doing that, but still the guy agreed to take it off. Now Luli understood the relationship between them. The person the brother likes is the teacher. She's gone. The teacher commented that he was too noisy, so it was necessary to cut off his tongue. Turns out sister is worried about his health after he cured her cold poison. She just helped him, and he's already got a lot on his mind. She pinched his cheek and asked him what he was thinking there. The boy replied that he didn't have any thoughts. The girl cried as she sat near the tree, not understanding why things had turned out this way. Even Dandan couldn't calm her down. Suddenly she heard a voice in her head about the use of crying, and whether the girl wanted him to help her. She yelled out who was here. This John Doe was right below her. The girl began to fail. After that, she completely disappeared somewhere. She was in some place where everything was red. Not far away, she saw another girl who said she had finally arrived. Love and wondered who it was. It was like a copy of her. This girl looks exactly like herself. She explained to that silly sissy that she was the Luli. In other words, this Luli is a different version of her. It was as if a flood of information was climbing into her head. Luli learned that this girl had died to protect her. She will help them overcome all obstacles to get back everything that belongs to them. But she was worried about Mistress. Luli, with red eyes, asked if she was still worried about that woman. In Yunling Chang's eyes, she is just a tool to deceive people. She must remember what Mistress did behind her back. If there is no teacher, her brother will go back to her. If a girl can be a Tian Chen, she's willing to do anything. Red-eyed Luli asked for permission to help give it all back to her. The kid wished she would be careful along the way. Suddenly a Dan flew over his head and the kid asked why he was here alone. He came to the spot where the Luli lay unconscious. He immediately went over to her and asked if she was okay. She opened her eyes and was happy to see her brother. The girl wondered why he was here, and the main character explained that Dan had called him to help her. He was worried that something might have happened to her, so he immediately went to get him. Tian Chen also inquired as to why her eyes had turned red. The girl replied that it was all because of the training. She was trying to learn a new technique that involved fire, but it's not serious. He's glad she's okay. She also explained that she was a bit out of it that night. The girl asked not to take her words seriously. The guy motioned for her not to say that. It was his fault for not being able to explain everything and causing the misunderstanding. If it's that important to her, then she'll be his little sister from now on. She clearly didn't like that prospect. Still, she pretended to be happy about it. Tian Chen stroked her head and called her little sister. Also, the girl called the Dan to her place. The guy almost forgot about him. But suddenly he jumped to the protagonist. He wondered why the little one didn't go to her. The girl explained that she had been too busy lately and didn't have time to take care of him. So she asked if the protagonist could take care of him for a few days. Tian Chen agreed. They said goodbye. Luli looked at him with a sly look. City Lord's mansion. There were darts in the main character's drawing. Situnan asked for his father's help to take revenge. But so much time has passed and still no news. He has to find out for himself. As the boy passed the room, he heard his father talking about his errand. He was told that there was no need to worry, for everything had been taken care of. The boy wondered who his father was talking to. It was a white-haired woman. The guy seemed to recognize her. The woman sensed that someone was watching them. With her power, she opened the door and pulled Situnan in. She grabbed him by the throat. The city lord shouted for her to stop, for it was his son. The woman explained that the kid had heard too much, so the father must kill his own son. Otherwise, they would not be sure of what might happen in the future. He helped his son up and replied that she could rest assured that they would not let them down. Everything would go according to plan. The woman only laughed and began to disappear. Situnan wondered why on earth his father had gotten involved with such a dangerous person. If anyone found out about it, they would be in trouble. But the city lord has a sense of proportion. He also asked his son if he didn't want revenge. The man investigated and found out that that person was from the Miaozong sect. It's that sect that only accepts women. It made the guy confused about whether he was a man or a woman. But this sect is very strong. And in order for them to get their revenge as soon as possible, he had to do one thing. He invited this crazy man for their plan. This time, they'll kill two birds with one stone. The next day, he didn't understand why it had been so noisy since morning. When the guy came out, he saw where you were going with the students. He didn't realize what had happened this time. People were screaming for the demon to come out and die. The girl replied that this sect always welcomed guests. So she asked why they had come here. A lot of young girls have been kidnapped in the city lately. Yunling Chan asked what the sect had to do with it. After a thorough investigation by the city lord, it was discovered that there was a man in this sect who practiced the dark arts. She replied that it was all a lie, because her sect only accepted women. How could there be a man here? Suddenly, the main character ran out to them and asked his sister what was wrong. They all looked at him angrily. The guy realized that he was definitely not welcome here. Lao Situ wondered when she would explain the presence of this man here. The protagonist had certainly not expected to see him here. She explained that this man had recently broken into their sect, and as punishment, he had become a servant here. But he showed the evidence that was found in the missing girl's house. The guy definitely remembered that he hadn't lost anything. But the question was, where did this jade tablet come from then? Tian Chen asked if she really belonged to the sect. Liuli started to shake her head. Yunling Chang explained that relying on the jade tablet alone was useless. This girl was lucky enough to escape, so she offered to listen to her. Here's the hard evidence. The girl accused Tian Chen of being the one who killed everyone. So what's she gonna say to that now? The city lord asked what really happened, but the man didn't wait for her clarification and decided to just kill her. The girl got ready. Following these men, 2 more entered the fray. She decided to deal with whoever was holding back her sword. Other people, however, were already too close to her. She put up a shield using her technique. Thanks to the Lordess, all of the sect disciples were temporarily protected. The protagonist asked his mentor if he could, with his current abilities, overpower those people outside. His mentor replied that he could stand against them, but his strength was not enough to overpower them all. The kid guessed that this girl was acting weird, and it must be a conspiracy that the Lao had set up. Suddenly Luli came to him and the guy asked why she was here. The girl explained that there is strife in the sect right now. She knows a secret road through which he can escape. He even has the option to leave. He asked me to tell the Lordess that he would definitely return once he knew the whole truth. The protagonist started packing. The girl will be sure to give the master his words. The Lordess observed the situation outside. She noticed her student and asked if there was any news about the secret. Liuli replied that there was nothing new, except that Tian Chen is gone. The Lord suggested that if the guy was gone, what these people were talking about might be true. She also wondered what he had said before he left. The girl just shook her head. The Lordess replied that it was nothing, as he was not a member of the sect and was free to leave. She knelt down and replied that no matter what happened, she would always be with her teacher. The Lordess was glad to hear those words. Ningzhou City. The guy together in the arms of the Dan asked the old man if he had heard anything about a kidnapping in the city. A lot of women have been disappearing in the city lately. They say a local sect elder did it. He asked where the relatives of the missing girls were now living. To everyone's surprise, everyone moved out at the same time. All the rooms are cleaned up, as if someone had deliberately covered up the evidence of the crime. All his assumptions about the missing girls had failed. Now, it's done completely out of order, because there should have been some traces left behind. But that doesn't negate the fact that something happened here. Suddenly, a girl flew into him. But before she could explain anything, she immediately got behind his back. As it turned out, someone was stalking her, and the guy wondered why he was doing it. But the stranger replied that he didn't need to know that. He immediately attacked the protagonist, but she was easily able to confuse the enemy. The masked man didn't realize what was wrong with his body. After which, the kid immediately moved behind his back. He grabbed his arm to prevent him from using his sword. Tian Chen then threw him off with a kick of his foot. That stranger hit a tree. The kid immediately started threatening him and asked him to answer who he was. The masked stranger asked not to kill him, and he answered all questions. But suddenly someone decided to get rid of the masked man. He immediately turned around to see who could have done it. But there was a girl standing there shaking all over. He immediately tried to calm her down, telling her that everything was fine. The girl immediately asked if he was the one who saved her. Tian Chen replied that it was exactly him. It also occurred to him that this girl looked very young. He wondered if she could be somehow related to the recently missing girls. He inquired as to her name and why this man was stalking her. The girl introduced herself as Gu Yu. She replied that the man wanted to make her do something, but suddenly interrupted. She began complaining of a headache and said she couldn't remember anything, after which she fainted. He helped the girl and asked to give them a room. The man realized that this guest was extraordinary. He told these guys to go eat and not to worry. Meanwhile, the man reminded his master that he hadn't eaten in days. He would really exhaust his body if he continued like this. Wee Man replied that he really had no desire to eat right now. Suddenly, a blue-haired man burst in on him and announced that he had found her. The man immediately got up from his seat and asked where she was. Fortunately, her body wasn't traumatized, and she had only fainted. He decided to wait until she woke up, and then he would talk to her. But the door of their room was broken down, and 3 men came in. He noticed the guy holding her hand. He immediately got angry and called him a bastard. This man didn't think of looking at this picture anymore, so he decided to kill the main character. Tian Chen's sword appeared in his hands. The girl woke up just at the right moment. She told them to stop. They immediately heard the girl scream and stopped their fight. The man with the scar was her father. The father realized that this guy had saved his daughter. The man thanked Tian Chen for saving his precious daughter. He also apologized for what had happened. The kid replied that it was okay and he understood. He also inquired as to who kidnapped Gu Yu. The man explained that he had sent his men to investigate, but so far, he had not found out anything. And the girl herself is not saying anything. The guy wanted to help with this investigation. He also noticed a chest being brought in. Tian Chen inquired what it was. The man replied that it was something he had saved up over his many years of work. If any item he liked, he could take it away. His mentor told him to look at one thing. The kid immediately wondered if this was the second fragment of scrolls from the auction. The man noticed that the young man would look at the map fragments. He told him, "Don't be so modest. and perhaps he would succeed in solving this mystery. He gave him this scroll. The man wished the young man to be careful along the way, and he would contact him as soon as there was any news. He needs to go into town and look for any more leads. The mentor informed the kid that he had merged the two fragments into one. Unexpectedly, there is a treasure hidden not far from them. The boy realizes that the teacher wants him to go after the treasure now, but he still has a lot to do. The mentor reassured the boy and explained that it wouldn't take long to get there. If he got the treasure, he could become much stronger. Also, he heard someone here. It was Gu Yu who asked how he was able to discover her so quickly. The guy asked how she got here. The girl replied that she had heard that the kid was looking for something. She was familiar with the area, so she thought she could help. Tian Chen immediately grabbed her shoulders and asked her what would happen if something happened to her. The girl replied that she just wanted to help him with his search. He realizes it's not safe to let her go alone right now. If she goes alone, she could run into more trouble. He gave her a handkerchief and told her not to cry. The protagonist agreed to go along with her. The girl had noticed that they had been going for hours. Suddenly, the girl stumbled and began to fall. The guy approached her and asked her how she was feeling. Gu Yu replied that she felt like she had sprained her leg. He used his technique to heal her leg and asked if she felt better. She felt that warm feeling. The protagonist noticed a strange expression on her face. She was about to say something to him, and she was shaking all over again. Tian Chen immediately let go of her leg. The girl replied that she was feeling much better. Therefore, they should continue on their journey. But they were followed by one man who gave himself away on purpose. They recognized this mask. He's from the same group as the previous man who attacked the girl. He laughed and said that God has eyes too. They must allow themselves to die for Lao Tzu. Her protagonist took the girl in her arms and recoiled from Togo's blow. This man was still keeping up with them and was already right in line with the protagonist. The kid also responded to his punch, but he was clearly stronger than this man. Originally, he didn't want to use that power. But now the situation is urgent. When he put on the mask, he turned. The man shouted that he would tear them both to pieces. The man's claws scratched the protagonist's face. Tian Chen realized that this guy's skin was very thick and normal attacks couldn't harm him. Now it was the girl's turn. She asked him to stay away from her. Suddenly, a thought came into his head as to how he could overpower this opponent. He immediately attacked his opponent, screaming that he was better off dead. This kid is using the same tricks and trying to hurt him in any way he can. But this time it worked out for him. And the main character was aiming for the same spot from different angles. The man also realized what the protagonist was about to do. He explained that it didn't even work once. Let him do it 100 or 1,000 times. The water won't hurt the grief. But the kid shouted that they would see who would win, the thick skin or the sword. He was able to pierce it after all. His mask fell. The protagonist put his sword to his face and asked who he was. The man shouted that even if he died, this wench wouldn't escape. She stared at him in horror. After which, Gu Yu fainted again. For a while now, the guy had already been carrying her on his back. The girl finally woke up. Tears immediately appeared in her eyes, and she replied that she had caused him so much trouble because she had gotten him into this. But as long as there's nothing wrong with this girl, then nothing matters. They reached a cave of some sort. Gu Yu asked if this was the place he was looking for. She took his hand and motioned for him to come inside. Suddenly he heard some sound, but he didn't even realize what it was. He immediately yelled for the girl to stop, but it was too late. A guardian appeared in front of them. She looked at the monster in horror and didn't realize what it even was. The monster roared at the girl. She fell down and screamed for him to stay away from her. The protagonist used his technique and told this monster to stop attacking her. But this monster was able to freeze his attack instantly. The protagonist wondered what his level really was. That monster was already too close to her. He stepped with his paw to where she was sitting, but she wasn't there. The kid saved her in time. But new spikes of ice from the Togo monster were already flying at them. But he was able to cut the sharp tip of that spike, and they landed there. It was too risky. Of course, this monster didn't think of leaving them so easily. They started to get so covered in ice that they couldn't even move. This creature definitely intended to finish them off. But into their defense flew Dan Dan. The guy was yelling for the little guy to get out of here fast. But suddenly, a black dragon hatched from the egg that Dan Dan was attached to. When the monster saw such a powerful creature, it didn't even think of attacking them anymore. He returned to the spot he was in before he attacked them. It was amazing that this white tiger had once again become a statue and the storm had subsided. He stroked the Dan Dan. That dragon turned back into an egg. The girl had picked up on the fact that it turns out her brother has such a strong spiritual beast. Tian Chen said what the kid's name was, and explained that he was one of the low-level spirits. He doesn't even know why the Dan Dan changed. Truth be told, her brother has already saved her 3 times. She doesn't even know how she can repay it. The girl seemed to reach up to kiss him. But her intentions were quite different. He suddenly began to feel dizzy. His body was also in turmoil from the heat. Suddenly hearts appeared in his pupils as he looked at the girl. Now the brother has definitely become happy. He was like the cat that attacked its prey. She will repay that brother well for his kindness. But suddenly he came to his senses. The protagonist immediately recoiled from her and asked what she had just done to him. She wondered if he, with his fortitude, could resist her spirit beast. It's a shame it was discovered. The family originally wanted him to die suddenly. Her father showed up there and asked Gu Yu how she was doing. This person's name is Zigi. The girl wondered why he was only coming now. The man replied that he had met a stupid avoidant wolf earlier. He had to teach it a lesson, which is why it had been delayed. Now the protagonist realized that they were definitely not father and daughter. As it turns out, they are a well-known married couple of thieves in the area. They purposely pretend and attract people like this fool, and then take the opportunity to rob and kill them. He'll give that thing to them, or he'll be right back with a corpse. Do they really want this baby? The girl said to steal them, for he now had the beast spirit in his hands as well. Taking advantage of their commotion, he managed to avoid. He ordered his men to follow him. He thinks he's already run far away, so he'll have to leave these thieves behind for a while. He also heard someone's footsteps. It's impossible for him to be caught up so quickly. Suddenly it was the same girl who helped him last time, but the guy himself doesn't know it was her. He didn't understand why there was only one person here and assumed it was someone else. They're probably just scouting the road. We'll have to deal with them quickly so they don't reveal his whereabouts. She attacked him. Fortunately, the protagonist was able to dodge these attacks. He saw that she had a solid spiritual strength. After that, the kid used his sword to attack. She flexibly dodged that sword. The guy immediately appeared behind her. He grabbed his sword and wanted to kill her. But suddenly, up close, it seemed to him that this man was somehow familiar. A shield appeared around her. The girl was about to attack him, but he stopped her. Tian Chen inquired casually if they had met before. Memories of how the guy had helped her back then immediately flashed through her mind. She recognized him. The protagonist explained that he was running away from the robbers and took refuge in this place. He mistook the girl for one of the robbers, so he attacked her. He also inquired how the girl found the place, but their conversation was interrupted by the bandits who had finally found him. The man also spotted another beauty. If the protagonist starts begging, maybe this beauty won't get hurt. The guy told her to run, and he would hold them off as long as he could. But this girl apparently wasn't even thinking about avoidance. They all fell to the ground holding their throats. The man asked what the creep had done to them, but the girl simply remained silent, not even wanting to answer his question. He decided to kill her, but it quickly dealt with his mutts. He couldn't believe that his spirit wolves had been defeated so easily. He began to choke. There's no way the man will leave her alone, even when he becomes a ghost. But in the end, they all died. The protagonist didn't think this girl would be so ruthless. She single-handedly defeated a group of enemies, and this picture seemed very familiar to him. He assumed that she was the one who had secretly sent the medicinal raw materials. Tian Chen wanted to ask her to find out, but then he saw Gu Yu holding onto his leg. She was asking him to save her. The girl would do whatever he ordered. The guy replied that when they started killing for profit, they themselves should have been prepared for a violent death. He approached the girl, calling her a warrior. The boy asked if she was the one who had given him the medicinal raw material earlier. The girl replied that it was indeed her. But suddenly she started coughing. He immediately became alarmed and asked if she was okay. She yelled for him to stay away from her. Suddenly the girl noticed something flying at her, and the protagonist immediately rushed in to protect her. Tian Chen asked again if she was all right. The girl answered nothing and only looked embarrassed. And now they noticed that this cave was collapsing. Also, the protagonist learned that this wall can absorb spiritual energy. How is that even possible? The only way in is also blocked to death. Looks like they're stuck in this cave. Things weren't good with the girl either, and she needed to fall asleep at exactly the right time. He wanted to wake her up, but the master stopped him, telling the boy not to touch her. This girl has 100 poisons inside her. Now that poison is coming out, and she's trying to contain it. The boy asked his mentor if there was anything that could be done about her standing, but it's hard to tell. It seems as if, despite its absolute poison, it could survive. She abruptly began coughing up blood. The mentor informed me that this girl was dying. The boy asked if the teacher knew a way to help her. The teacher replied that there was one way, but he asked the protagonist if he was sure he wanted to save her. It would be extremely dangerous. If he wasn't careful, he would also be consumed by 100 poisons. This girl had helped him before. Besides, he got her into trouble again this time. Therefore, he simply cannot ignore her condition. The master accepted his choice and will lend his body. When the girl woke up, the guy told her to stop holding back her poison and let it come out. He knows a way to help her. She just needs to trust him. The girl released her venom. This poison already wanted to attack the protagonist, but with his technique, he tied them up. He began to execute the seal. He opened his seal, and all the poison began to be absorbed. Fortunately, it worked out for him. The guy started to fall. The girl caught it. She shifted the protagonist onto a rock and placed a rag on his forehead. He's awake. Tian Chen saw this very girl in front of him. She immediately pulled away from him and replied that he was finally awake. The girl also inquired as to why on earth he had saved her. The guy explained that she had previously helped him too. He also asked if they were not considered friends now. The girl replied that she had previously only saved him because the main character had saved someone very important to her at the auction. The kid guessed she was talking about Ayu. Besides, she doesn't need friends. Tian Chen wondered why on earth she thought that. The girl explained it all away by saying that she was very ugly. Memories of the little girl telling the kid not to go out with them immediately flashed through his mind. He'd better not leave the house without looking in front of that mirror. The boy was even thrown a rock. He was approached by a girl who asked why he was hiding here alone. The boy explained that they all took a dislike to his ugliness. The girl tried to calm him down and answered him not to believe their words. He should stop before he goes any further. Everyone knows that. She also offered to let the boy play with her. It was a story about his only friend. Later she met more people, but he also remained her friend. She repeated the words about stopping before moving on. Everyone knows that. She decided to show her face. That's what she looked like now. The girl wondered if the sight frightened him. The guy didn't reply that if she wanted, he could be her first friend. She thanked the kid for that. The main character introduces himself and asks what her name is. After all, he still doesn't even know it. As it turns out, this girl's name is Shen Lan Ting. She wanted to shake hands with the guy, but he disappeared. Lan Ting wondered what had happened. Tian Chen told her to be quiet. He heard what appeared to be an exit from below. They popped out. The protagonist didn't expect such a beautiful place to be hidden inside. Lan Ting asked if he was all right. Tian Chen replied that he could swim, so he was fine. He also recalled an incident when he wanted to solve a problem in one fell swoop and jumped into the lake as a child. In the end, the water was not so frightening, so he instinctively swam to the shore. He also asked if the girl recognized him as her friend. She replied that if he were dead, it would be boring to be stuck here alone. He only laughed at her words. Perhaps there was already an exit in front of them. He swung the door open. There were torches hanging on the walls, but suddenly they went out, and the door closed. They heard a voice about what seemed to be two small spirits. It's been so long since they've seen live people. Looks like they're in the wrong place. These monsters immediately flew towards the girl when they sensed the fresh meat. The guy chopped them up with his sword, but this trash was as if unharmed. He recovered quickly from that blow. How could he even ignore the damage the divine spirit had done? They grabbed the Tian Chen, saying for this little spirit not to resist. The submissive body would belong to them. The soul of the mentor began to come out of him. But that was impossible, for his body has the scent of that great man on it. They let the kid go right away. A little later, he woke up. The boy didn't understand why those spirits had suddenly disappeared. He assumed it was the teacher's help. After Togo, he saw the girl sitting in front of a large statue. Lan Ting replied that this lady's name was Kui, nicknamed the Honorable Poison. It is said that she practiced the art of poison and no one could defeat her. It was rumored that Lady Kui was on good terms with the boundless star who was traveling around the continent at the time. After being abandoned, Mrs. Kui left a book called 1,000 Poisons in the Unpaired Meridians, and depressed, she met her end. Turns out the teacher had the face he needed. We can go on and on about it, but he didn't understand why the teacher didn't react in any way. The girl saw the statue pointing at something, and she was pointing straight at the wall. Meanwhile, the boy started calling for his teacher. She saw the door, after which they opened it. It was another chamber of secrets. The guy didn't wonder when the exit would be. It's not like they're in a Matryoshka doll. When they entered the room, they saw some things lying there in the center. The girl took the book, and the boy wondered if that was the purpose of their hike. Lan Tin replied that it was. Unfortunately, they're not going anywhere from here, but the guy knows a way out of here. He took the other thing that was standing there. The fellow recognized that the construction of this edifice is skillful. Each tier corresponds to the 5 steps of the scale. All that's left is to get it into the right position. The convex parts can make the corresponding sound. It is said that Mrs. Kui not only practiced poisons, but also loved music. Is the sacred truth of this output and soundness connected? The protagonist asked if she might know her most favorite tune. She remained silent, trying to remember it all. After which the girl started humming something. He didn't understand why the tune seemed more and more familiar. Suddenly he guessed it was a starry sky. That year, we looked up at the starry sky. There were so many brilliant and shining reveries. At least I will remember for a long time the unchanging sky keeping me company. All that's left is to bring down the starry sky as an unchanging memory to keep me company. Is there really anyone else besides him who's been through this? I got a sword in my patch. Is this really what the teacher was talking about? This is the sword of the dragon's roar. After that, a teleportation circle appeared. They were able to get out. It's been a few days since he left the family. I guess sister doesn't know what the situation is like. He told Tan Ling that he had a very important person he wanted to save. She is now in a dangerous position. That's why they should say goodbye. The girl seems to have it all wrong. The kid said that later, when she had free time, she should come to the Meow sect and find him there. And she just turned her back on him. But the main character is still gone. She, on the other hand, was silently staring somewhere. He decided to go back to look around the city first. He didn't want to miss any leads. He noticed that the two young men were going up light. They were carrying all the heavy things on two old men. A really rash move. The guy asked the old men if by any chance they were coming from the city. He wanted to answer, but he was burned by the stares of the young men behind him. The old man replied that they were in a great hurry to get on their way, so there was no time for chatter. He said goodbye to the young man. The protagonist was approached by a man who explained that they were a family of travelers and didn't bother him for nothing. Therefore, he should just get behind them. They went somewhere far away. 2 knights have left the city so far away. The old people didn't know where their daughter was now. Those 2 men decided to come out to talk. Things could take a turn for the worse. That's why he suggested killing those old men right there. It doesn't please him that they took those 2 decrepit old men with them, who are full of troubles. When the time comes, they will bring the dead body back to the sect. Since the 2 old men are so impatient, it only remains to let their family reunite before. They began to shake with the fear of not understanding what they were about to do. They'd better get down and wait for their daughter. But someone has already dealt with one person. The main character appeared behind the other man and explained that the 2 of them were in trouble. The man begged to be spared. He threw his sword. Tian Chen asked who they were and why you were planning to kill those old men. He replied that they were followers of a murderous sect. It wasn't long before the head sent them into town to pick up the girls. The head then ordered them to find the people, namely the family members of these very girls, who had been fraudulently taken out of the city to keep things clean. It turns out behind the scenes is the real culprit, namely the murderous sect. The man asked the young man if he had confessed to everything, so maybe he would let him go. He put his sword away. This man must not forget this incident. He should become a good man in the future. He had memorized the main character and let him just wait for the chapter to return, but a sword immediately flew at him. But this guy said he'd let him go. The protagonist, because I told you that in the future. He was referring to the next life. He reassured these old men that he would definitely save their daughter. The guy was already holding somewhere. The man said this young man shouldn't go in there. Above is the territory of a blood sect. The people there are very bloodthirsty. The protagonist inquired about this villager. The blood sect demands that they pay their tribute on time. Otherwise, the whole village will suffer. Apparently, a new plan began to brew in Tian Chen's mind. They arrived at the gates of the blood sect. They were told to stop. The kid asked what was wrong. The guard asked why he hadn't seen him before. The guy replied that he was Zhang San's nephew. He injured his leg, so the guy is in his place. The guard asked again why he had never heard of his nephew. Well, he just didn't say anything. The guards immediately wanted to grab him. He already wanted to deal with him and make quick work of it. But suddenly the young head arrived. He welcomed the young head. The girl replied that the young head conveyed that it was only a weak peasant. Don't stand there giving him a hard time. Although the young head made a choice. But there are rumors that she left the sect for a long time this time, so she doesn't know for sure. Is he really going to meddle in the young chapter's affairs? He immediately fell on his knees and said that this inferior deserved to die. He asked for forgiveness in the young head. They're gone. The boy didn't understand why this young head had saved him. The man replied that he was lucky this time. He should hurry up and pass while he could. Blood Cult Warehouse. He told the man he couldn't hold back any longer and asked him to tell him that he had retreated to the restroom. The man replied to just roll out of here. The boy noticed that the security at the blood-stained school was very strict. Suddenly, he heard a voice saying that already someone was watching him, for he was hanging around here idly. He immediately looked around to see who was talking. He didn't expect to see such a little guy here. The protagonist wondered if the newcomer was humble enough to ask questions of his elders. He didn't even seem to know him at all. People even gave him a nickname, Elf. You can't hide anything from him in that sect. He realized this kid could be taken advantage of. The protagonist replied that he had long admired this elf and had even prepared treasures for him. He immediately wanted to know what this treasure was, but Tian Chen explained that there were too many people here, and someone might see it. So he suggested that they go somewhere where no one would see them. There's a dungeon nearby, and no one but the guard can find them there. Maybe they're in an underground dungeon. The elf immediately demanded his treasure. The boy drew his sword. The elf praised him. The guy also brought up that he had heard that new people had been brought into the dungeon recently. The elf replied that they were all girls who had been taken out of the city. Not long ago, his older sister disappeared. He asked to enter the dungeon. The elf replied that he would die immediately, not to mention his sister and mother. The protagonist has noticed that this treasure has another feature. The older man recognizes it when he gets closer, and as soon as that elf approached, he immediately chopped off his head. So many beauties, they can only watch them. How dare that crazy man fantasize about the women of the chapter? He's definitely lacking in brains, but there are only 2 of them here, so no outsiders have heard. Suddenly there was a kid who asked who said that no one had heard. They were immediately wary and asked who he was. Tian Chen replied that he was the young head's newly appointed secret envoy, responsible for ensuring the internal security of the school in case of an attack by the bandit clan. The man asked if he had any proof at all that he was indeed a secret messenger. These daredevils had just dared to doubt the secret messenger. What kind of asshole comes in and starts pretending to be someone else? If you look at his posture, you can tell he's a recent arrival. He told them to wait until he reported what they said. The man started to stop the secret messenger. All this was because of his ignorance. He asked the secret messenger not to take it to heart and to keep it a secret. The boy replied that he was a little hungry after a tiring day. This inferior will immediately prepare wine and a meal for the secret messenger, but they were told to keep watch over the area. There's a secret messenger here. Isn't there something that could happen? When they left, he went into the locked women. He reassured them that he had come to save them. They were already carrying food for the secret messenger. Suddenly, a man crashed into someone, and that someone was an elder. The elder asked if they weren't responsible for guarding the dungeon and why they were here. The man replied that they were just returning and a secret messenger to guard. The elder didn't know exactly which secret messenger they were talking about. He told these girls to be quiet. Then the kid heard yelling that these idiots should open faster. How dare that bastard deceive an elder? Tian Chen asked. How dare he yell at the secret envoy? Did he really have enough to live for? He also asked who had swayed him to his side. They were already trembling with fear. But an elder had already rushed in. The elder replied, "If this guy introduces himself, then he will keep his corpse. Now we know who mutinied against the secret envoy." He ordered the guard to seize him. This kid is looking for the exact death. So much pressure, and by the looks of it, it's not going to be easy to handle. Suddenly they heard a cry that they should stop all this. It was the young head, that is Tan Ling. The elder inquired as to what the young head was doing here. She explained that this man had helped her, after which she had noticed certain skills prevalent in him. That's why she kept him. Even so, what could he have forgotten in the dungeon? The girl replied that he had only recently arrived and was not yet fully settled in. He must have made a mistake. He was decided to be spared only out of respect for the young head, but no one will help him next time. He reported that the elder had left. A man tried to wake from another guard. Tan Lin replied that they were leaving. The girl said he could ask whatever he wanted. Tian Chen inquired who was the head of the bloody school. The girl revealed that it was her adoptive father, and also a sworn enemy. 20 years ago, a little girl saw something out there. There was an injured man in that very boat. The man helped him, and the rest is up to him. As soon as that man left, he immediately got up. His mind immediately had some horrible thoughts. The head gathered everyone together, and they set off. Finally, the adults are gone, and we can have a lot of fun. The girl reported that recently animals had been seen near the village. Therefore, she suggested not to run around. If she tells anyone, no one will play with her. Suddenly, the very man they had found not too long ago approached them. The man suggested how about taking them to a more fun place. The kids agreed after all. He led them to a cave of some kind. First they have to eat it, and then something amazing happens. They all listened to him, except for the girl. Because Grandpa Head said not to take food from strangers, he only laughed. The man noticed that the head had returned and inquired if he had caught the beast. He replied that he had not even seen a shadow. But they met 3 travelers who had lost their way. He immediately became alarmed. The man decided to observe them. He saw those travelers. The man immediately told the head that he was in serious trouble. They were demons who wouldn't even bat an eye at killing people. All of his wounds were inflicted by them. He didn't even expect this. So the man decided to prompt him with a solution. He brought sake for the travelers to quench their thirst. They thanked the chapter. The man noticed that these travelers came from distant lands and wondered why they had come here. This time, they are looking for a werewolf who has broken the ways of the ancestors. His mentor treated him as his own son, and this brute poisoned him for the elixir of immortality. They all wanted to drink sake. The head wanted to stop them, but it was too late. They all got sick. A white-haired man came out and said that it had been a long time since they had seen Brother Mentor. He also asked why his face was so ugly. Unfortunately, they didn't even have time to do anything to him. They all fell dead to the ground. The head was telling the man to stay away from him. So meanwhile, the children were still in the cave. The girl's awake. She needs to go back immediately and tell her grandfather-in-chief about everything. But she saw before her what she had not expected at all. Her whole village was on fire. She didn't understand why things had happened the way they did. She saw a man coming out of there. When she saw that little girl, he remembered that this child had been poisoned. It didn't work. Sat across from this girl. It was very interesting for him. Whereupon the man told the devil to follow him, for he would take care of her. The man adopted her, and then she became nothing more than a mere tool. Tian Chen didn't expect her to have such a past. She put up with it for a very long time, and it was all about revenge. By sorting things out, she'll redeem herself. The guy replied that it wasn't her fault in any way, but if it wasn't for her, the demon wouldn't have gotten into the village, and no one would have died. The main character explained that you can't blame yourself for what the wrong person did. He made the mistake, not her. She still couldn't believe his words, but he insisted again that it wasn't her fault. Tears came to her eyes and she hugged him. The guy replied that everything would be fine. Tan Ling thanked him for bailing her out again. The girl also asked what he had come here for. He replied that it was a long story, and it all started with the strange events at the fog school. In this way, the girl learned that she was important to him. The guy asked what she was talking about. Though she carries the status of a junior chapter, she actually has limited rights. Now that the demon is gone, the elder is in charge. So she suggested that this elder be poisoned. But don't underestimate his abilities. The elder must have been prepared for this place a long time ago. If she wanted the elder to be hooked, she would need to prepare a good bait. He has a plan. The girl replied that it was too dangerous for the protagonist, but he believed in her.